Going on, everyone? Welcome to a very special episode of the Renegade Marquee on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me is my co-captain, Tommy.
Greetings, Captain. It is great to be back amongst wonderful individuals and write our respective memos to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, consideration from their friendly renegades.
Indeed. And joining us, we've got Fiona.
Well, hello, everybody. Nice to be back.
And our editor extraordinaire, Bree.
It's me again, for better or worse.
And returning to the network for the first time in a couple months, we've got Josh.
Hey, everyone. What's up?
And Millennial Mike.
Good to hear from you guys. Or you're hearing from me, I guess, if you're listening to the podcast, but you get it.
So yeah, as Tommy mentioned, this is our memo to the Academy ahead of the announcement of the nominations for the 97th Academy Awards. But before we get too far, I do want to acknowledge the wildfires that have been setting several parts of Los Angeles ablaze. In the show notes, we have included links to several sites if you want to support anyone who's been affected by these fires. So our hearts go out to people who've lost their homes or any casualties of this fire. We wish you all the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been rough, and obviously awards are like the last thing on everyone's mind right now, but we're still want to celebrate, all the great cinematic achievements that did happen this year, even if they weren't so good in our opinion. Again, this is our opinion, but if you could donate just anything, financial support is generally what a lot of these local and wider organizations are asking for, more for long-term, like financial things, anything that you can give, because it is going to be a long, brutal recovery.
Yeah.
To all our friends and family out west, you're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers. Stay strong. It's just a setback. We love you.
Indeed.
Now, with that being said, how about I go around and ask everyone their general thoughts on the year that was before we dive deeper into individual categories. Mike, I'll start with you, because I don't think we've had, even the last time that we spoke, a very macro discussion on 2024 in film.
Dune 2, go Burr.
I say.
So this year has probably been one of the most destitute years for me when it comes to watching movies. I mean, years past, I've gone to the theater up to, 2 or 3 times a week. A lot of that had to do with my podcast being at the top of its game and its activity, and also a move that I recently had in the past 4 years puts me further away from theaters. So it's just a lot more difficult. So a lot of the movies I've been going to it's been more communal stuff, like going with friends to see movies that like my friend groups are kind of talking about, just, as a social situation. Dune 2 did fall into that, and it also happened to be, on the nominated for Best Picture list. So I think that's actually going to be, how can I put this? My experience might be more reflective of, I guess, the general audience than it has ever been. I've always been kind of more of the cinephile kind of guy, just because of how much time I dedicated to analyzing and watching movies in years past. But now I've been focusing more on just, watching movies that my social groups are going to see. And it's not even that I necessarily like those movies more. I definitely prefer the more Academy-oriented kind of movies. It's just been time and convenience and things like that that's been a factor. But looking at the list, like, I know a lot of the directors who direct these movies. The Brutalist is a movie that I really have on my list. I want to see that because Vox Lux is a movie that I own and I've seen multiple times. I love that movie, and I've shown it to my friends, things like that. It's a fantastic movie. So I'm a big Brady Corbet fan. I saw part of Childhood of a Leader, which is another movie he did, but I didn't get to finish that one yet, but I plan to. So yeah, those are just some general thoughts. Denis Villeneuve is my favorite director, so it's no it's no surprise that I went to go see Dune 2, and I'm excited for Dune Messiah when that comes out. So
Yeah, same. Very excited to see how he follows up Dune Part 2. Josh, what about you? Your general thoughts on 2024?
I thought it was a good year. I know it was like the post-strike lull a lot of people felt, which I anticipated, I guess. I was struggling in putting together my own like personal top 10 favorite list about around August or September. I was like, oh man, this year's been pretty dead to me at least. But the back end of the year really came on in full force for me at least, and gave me a lot of movies that I really ruminated on and grew to love and defend in some cases. I mean, I'll say this year for me personally, in regards to my own journey and relationship with movies, was very special. And just like I felt like I evolved a lot and grew strong in my own perspective and the lens that I watched things through. I mean, there was a few movies released this past year that I thought were pretty great examples of like artists creating on their own terms as best as they could in the face of ever encroaching corporate dominance. And I also got comfortable with having takes that were a little bit off the beaten path. Oh, and I went to my first film festivals this past year. I was able to see our two main frontrunners, I guess you would call them right now, Amelia Perez and The Brutalists, at the New York Film Festival back in October. And then I went to the Philadelphia Film Festival and I got to see Nickel Boys, which regrettably, a lot of people, I have no idea when they're going to be able to see it at this point with distribution and everything being screwed up. But I was very fortunate to be able to attend both those events. And yeah, as I was mentioning, getting more comfortable in my own way of looking at things and being comfortable saying semi-incendiary stuff. Like I think Wicked is the most aesthetically daring blockbuster, even above Dune Part 2. And
yeah, boy.
and also not liking The Brutalists at all. Like I'm totally comfortable with my takes and why I feel the way I feel about those particular stuff. So great year for me personally when it comes to
Josh is my arch nemesis.
No, I like to think I just challenge you. We have a lot of really good conversations about this kind of stuff.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm just joking.
Bree, what about you? I heard of a lot of enthusiasm when Wicked was brought up.
Yeah, but to first go off of what Mike and Josh were saying, I agree. Like this year was kind of like, unless you count like the last like 3 or 4 months of 2024, it was kind of a really slow year. Like it was just basically Dune. And then like nothing happened. Like, yeah, like Inside Out 2, which I enjoyed, but I was just like, okay, like that was good. Like I didn't really think much after that because I was just whatever. I guess it's mostly like a me thing to an extent because I'm like so much into like my own things now that I see a lot of things now and I'm like, that's definitely a narrative choice that you made. But yeah, as someone who has loved the musical, warts and all, for well over a decade, I was so pleasantly surprised with how good like the Wicked adaptation was. And this was like the first time I've ever felt like, wow, that split actually made sense. Like it felt like justified. And the choices that they added, like the people who made this film understood the difference between stage and film language. And they made adaptation choices that to me, it made sense and also took things from the book, which if you're not aware, Wicked the book and Wicked the musical are two very, very different things. So I saw that and I don't know how good its chances are now since it is so late into the season, but Nosferatu is really fucking good, guys. Like, I enjoyed that so much. I mean, really, when you think about it, for as kind of like dry as most of the year was, we had some really good visual spectacles this year that I kind of feel like really broke the mold of how movies have looked for the last couple of years. So I'm really hoping, you know, at least in that regard, that they are rewarded because, oh my God, like set designers are cool. And I really hope something like Wicked does get rewarded when it does have a good balance of practical and VFX. And I feel like it's kind of been a minute since we've had a movie like that.
I want to jump off what you said about Nosferatu because one thing that I want to bring up as often as I can as we're going through these categories is what a banger year horror has had in 2024.
Oh my God, yes.
Like as much as this year as a whole has been a lull just because of productions being slowed down during the strikes. We still got like a lot of great stuff in genre filmmaking. And other than Nosferatu, the other movie that I'm like super campaigning hard for is The Substance. And yeah, we'll get to the specific categories later, but I'm just really hoping that horror gets as much love this year as possible. Now, Tommy, how about you? Your general thoughts on 2024 in film?
I'll piggyback off you for a second, Mike, because, talking about horror and 2024 was a banger year indeed, but I'll give a special shout out not only in feature-length films, but in short films as well, specifically live action short films. And a short film that everybody talks about their favorite horror films. And I was having a conversation with some coworkers at Sinopolis recently about what our favorites of the year were for horror. And I brought up a short film that made its debut at Sundance. And that's a movie called, a short film rather, called Dream Creep. Are you guys familiar with it before I go any further?
Vaguely.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is because it's a short film, but if you didn't know any better, you'd think you were watching the pre-title sequence to the next Nightmare on Elm Street movie. The Wes Craven vibes were on point. It was that powerful. But I'll leave that something to ponder about because, obviously it's that powerful. I doubt it would get any short film love by the Academy, but it would be nice if it was at least recognized of the sort. Anyway, how has 2024 spoken to me with film? As somebody who works in a movie theater, who's a critic, and X, Y, and Z, someone who just straight up loves this industry, to see the reactions that spectators see as they're watching a movie, and then to be sitting in a theater itself and watch trademark moments happen throughout the year. In no order of preference, when I sit in a particular spot and I see moments that live with me forever, the good and the bad for 2024, I think back to moments that made me the spectator who I am today. How does this compare, and will this stand the test of time? That's what 2024 was to me. And as I sit in an IMAX theater and I see that moment in The Wild Robot when they're on a spaceship, and that moment, without going into spoilers, between Bright Bill and Roz. And when I sit, and then I think back to sitting in Sinopolis after midnight, we had a staff screening of Deadpool and Wolverine, and seeing those moments and those reveals play out. And then in the days that followed, being able to deliver orders to these guests and standing back and seeing their reaction in real time to those moments play out. The same thing, even the littlest of tidbits, utilizing Bad Boys Ride or Die, for example, without going into spoilers. One of my favorite needle drops of the year was Barry White and Can't Get Enough of Your Love. And that moment had some of the most howling moments of laughter I've heard in a while. And it's a reminder of the power that is the experience of going to the movies. And whether it be those reveals from Deadpool and Wolverine, the construction and the physical set and effects that was the swimming pool scene from Twisters, or the spaceship scene in The Wild Robot, among many other moments that will live with me forever. 2024 was a cinematic journey, something that spoke to me on a personal level. And that is what I will remember most of it.
Amen. Kiona, what about you?
For me, I think 2024 is sadly a year that I did not get to see as many movies as I would have liked to have gone to. The Brutalist is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. Nora is something that I'm looking forward to watching. Emilia Perez as well. A Complete Unknown. So many movies that I haven't had the chance to see that I really want to see. Nosferatu being among them. The one movie I think that encapsulates the joy of movies for me, the joy of cinema, if you will. I know it's not technically, if we want to get into the Scorsese definition of cinema, we can. But no, I mean, I think for me, it was Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that was my favorite film of the year. Just because I am, first and foremost, a comic book guy. Secondly, I love me some big old blockbuster action flicks. I enjoy that. And I like a good, dollop of meta humor. That's something that I also enjoy. So for me, that movie hit all the marks. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. There was a lot of Easter eggs for those of us that know the comics, that enjoy the comics. So that was probably my favorite. But in terms of just as you said, Mike, the macro view, I think 2024 was a year where there was a little bit of a struggle to find those diamonds in the rough. But I think that if you looked hard enough, you could. For me, it's something like Conclave. Wicked also was incredible visually. Dune Part 2, an epic that deserves its place in the ranks of cinema, I would say, even though I personally, the Dune movies for me, not really my thing, but I see why people enjoy them. And I love that. I would never take away from that. Mike, you mentioned The Substance. I agree. I thought that movie was really, really well done. There's so many on my list that I haven't had the chance to watch yet, and that I really do want to. I want to have that experience, even if it's just watching on my computer screen, which is a lot of the time the experience that I have. But it's just something that I would like to be able to partake in. So for me, 2024, definitely, like, I wouldn't say it's the most star-studded year in terms of huge movies that like scream at you to watch them. But there's so much in there that is just like, hey, I'm here. I'm a movie. I'm a masterpiece. I'm just, I just watch me, enjoy me, And I think that like The Brutalist is one of those. And I think that something like Flow is one. Number 2 movie of the year, by the way. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But like, yeah, I enjoyed movies that I wouldn't normally have thought that I would have enjoyed. Like, Challengers was one that I thought was actually pretty good. Now, albeit that's because the soundtrack, a lot of it was because of the soundtrack, which was awesome. I think Saturday Night is a movie that I definitely want to watch that I didn't have a chance to. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the list here. Heretic is one that I wanted to watch that I didn't get a chance to. Furiosa, one that I did watch, I thought was actually pretty good. But yeah, there's like some of them did not really work for me or didn't really, hit that sweet spot, as it were. But some of them also really did. So and surprisingly. So yeah, I would say 2024 was a year of discovery for me.
Since you brought up Challengers, why don't we start the first category with something near and dear to my heart, and that is best score. So,
okay,
how we're structuring this podcast, we don't have to fill all 5, or in the case of Best Picture, all 10 nominees. But I just want to get your ideas of what you think will win, what should win, and then just for fun, a complete long shot. One that probably has no chance even being nominated. So just some examples, according to Gold Derby, we've got The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, The Wild Robot, Challengers, Wicked. Surprisingly, I kind of challenged that for best original score, but I digress. And of course, Nosferatu. Josh, I'm gonna start with you. Give me your will win, your should win, and a complete wild card for best original score.
Okay, will win will probably be The Brutalist, I believe. If you watch the trailer, there's the score for that's pretty good. I would say it's pretty exceptional. It does a lot of the heavy lifting in the film for me. So I believe, I don't even know, I feel like that's the front runner right now. Should win of the ones that are circulating. Yeah, I think Challengers would be cool. I listen to it all the time at the gym. It really gets me going. And then complete wild card. I have two, either Megalopolis. I like the score for that. I think that kind of went under the radar, but it's very optimistic and hopeful. And the name of the composer escapes me. It's I think he's Argentinian or something. I could be completely wrong, but he's worked with Coppola on a lot of his recent films. And then I'm going to go with Junkie XL, aka Tom Holkenborg, for Rebel Moon. I love that score. I think it's beautiful.
Nice.
That's the wild card, obviously. That has no chance in hell.
Oh no, of course not. Mike, I'll go to you next. And just before we continue, I want to point out that it is now official. Hans Zimmer's score for Dune Part 2 has been disqualified. So
that can be. So I mean, that's just a really, really long shot. It's like the longest of shots, basically.
Yeah, consider that your free space. Now, anyway, continue.
So I was trying to flip into Gold Derby to see if I could find all of the different things, like as far as like what's qualified, what's disqualified. Regardless of, I guess, whatever the Academy is saying, is going to be able to win or not, based on what I've seen, what I know, I really enjoyed Joker 2, the music in that. So I feel like a lot of that would be really cool to see. I don't think, do you know if it's qualified or not? I couldn't find it. I couldn't tell.
I don't know one way or the other whether or not that score qualifies.
Okay. But yeah, I think because there's been a few musicals. I know I haven't seen it, but Amelia Perez is a musical, like it's a musical, and then we have, of course, Joker 2, the musical. I think there was another big one that I'm that's not coming to my mind, but I think a lot of those are always
probably the
Better Man.
Yeah,
we have a few music biopics, so like typically, like for me, like things that are going to revolve directly around music, they're always going to be kind of up there. And then, of course, movies that have quite like experimental music. I mean, if Junkie or Zimmer is on something, I'm always going to be partial to it just because I'm a Snyder fan. So it's, it's exactly what you think it is. It's not more complicated than that. Even Sonic 3, honestly, had some pretty amazing music in it, but I don't think it's probably not qualified for really any awards. Junkie worked on that one. I think he did a really good job actually with kind of incorporating motifs from the games in a way that's a little more subtle than a lot of other genre blockbuster franchise fare. Stuff that's like so subtle that you wouldn't actually know that it's even in there unless you actually knew it. And I don't know the game, so I actually had to like hear from other people that it was in there. I'm like, wow, that's really clever. Megalopolis is funny. I have seen that great movie, and along with Horizon is probably my favorite movie of the year, even above Dune 2, which is actually kind of sacrilege for me to say because I'm a Denis, acolyte or whatever. But I really like that movie, but I don't really remember the music from either of those. I just know that they were kind of meant to just be more complimentary than, kind of stick out. Like, oh, I'm going to listen to this on my iPod later or whatever. So I'm kind of more the person who likes the stuff that sticks out, but that's me in general. Like I like cinematography that sticks out. I like editing that sticks out. I like music that sticks out. And I think that's kind of a different school of thought. I mean, I think sometimes you don't need that. I think what you need is something that's going to really just kind of blend in, almost disappear, just kind of add to the experience. So to just wrap up, I would say Joker 2. I really like that.
Okay. Tommy, I'll go to you next. Your will win, should win, and your complete wild card.
I will start by saying that I do agree with Josh by thinking that The Brutalist is currently the leader in an otherwise close race. Say we're on a cookie cutter oval track in the United States Midwest. This is not even a race that's halfway, but it's still fairly close. So while The Brutalist is leading, I wouldn't call it the front runner quite yet. It's still a very close race. I would also say that Chris Bauer's score from The Wild Robot, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score from Challengers, Bertelmann's score for Conclave, I would say would be in it's in the top 5. It's in the top 5. I don't know if I'd say it's in podium contention, but it's still very close. For the 5th spot, it's hard because there's so many worthy contenders for Best Original Score. One could even make a case for Amelia Warner and The Young Woman in the Sea, alongside Robin Carlin for Nosferatu. But I would say for the 5th spot, Andrea Datzman's score for Inside Out 2, from the opening moment that sends us blasting off into hyperspeed, from the Disney and Pixar signatures to the lights turning on in the arena for that hockey game in the opening scene, we were ready to rock and roll from that point forwards. So it's still a very close call. Any movie from serious to legitimate contender could sneak into that top 5. And we would still be happy about it. I mean, this is where it gets into the personal story, because talking about what Mike said about what Millennial Mike, that is, said about memorability and how that music sticks with us. My long shot pick is one that has also stuck with me throughout the year. I was talking with some critic insiders recently about how much I loved this score, and it has absolutely no chance for any consideration, which is a shame, because of just how it's beat alone is memorable and lives with you. I'm going to do that bit right now, and I'm going to see if you guys know which one I'm talking about. Here we go.
I don't know. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, you're good. All right. It's Michael Giacchino's score for If is, this may surprise some people, but If is one of my favorite movies of last year. It's a perfect movie for many different reasons, but the power of how it spoke to me. And when you listen to this music and you see Bee's journey and everything that she was going through, and having Cal by her side, and ultimately moving forward the revelations, and specifically with that all-star cast, as she was able to power forward on her own, took me back to something that I had to go through about 18 months prior. But on December 10th, 2022, my mom had a massive heart attack, and being back, and she powered through, but, seeing her in ICU and then ultimately moving out of ICU in recovery, I had to go through that by myself. And having lost my father from a young age, to really, I saw Bee and I saw myself and what that went through, and that music and, that feeling of overcoming and the variations of Giacchino's score is something that reminded me of, that spoke to me and reminded me of myself in those moments, powering forward. And from walking through those hallways, thinking back to being 5 years old at OSF St. Francis in Peoria and the Bueller home, to now walking these hallways in the case of my mom and, Halifax Medical Center, which is the same hospital where Dale Earnhardt was pronounced dead. It's that sense of connectivity and being able to overcome, and seeing it's a sense of victory, and that's the power of that score. And case of my mom, I'm glad that she's still here today. I'm glad that Cal was able to help Bee in that story. I want to thank Dr. Vincent Peterson for saving my mother's life, and just the power of that music. Why it didn't connect with Academy Award voters, I don't know. But Paramount had a case. They could have made a really good case in a campaign for it. They opted not to, and that's okay. But that's what scores are all about, and how they live through us.
Indeed. Those are the ones that will last for a lifetime. Fiona, why don't you go next?
Sure. Okay. So for me, I'm sure that The Brutalist is going to be a score that I'm very interested in listening to. I'm certain of that. But I think for me, in terms of personally of the movies that I've seen, I think Conclave would be the front runner. I really enjoyed that score. I thought it matched the movie perfectly. And in terms of, so that's what I believe will win. In terms of what should win, I think Challengers. I think that score is a big part of why I even like that movie at all. Also the acting, and also like there's a number of reasons why I like that movie, but I think the score is a huge one because I remember just watching that and just going like, why did they make this choice for this film? And then by the end of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And then you see Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross as the composers, and you're like, yeah, now I even get it more. Anyway, so I would say that one should win. I think out of the left field wild card choice for me is Beetlejuice, just because I love Danny Elfman.
Ooh, that's a good one for a wild card.
Yeah.
Bree, what about you?
Actually, just to go back, I've been like holding this in, like trying not to laugh, because we were bringing up the Challengers score, and I actually have a picture of Carol Danvers wearing a Nine Inch Nails shirt on, so I was like trying not to laugh.
I love it. I love that. I love it.
Oh, wow.
I was just like trying to keep it together. Like all of you guys have like these heartfelt stories, and then I'm like just staring. Fucking Nine Inch Nails shirt.
Makes sense.
But anyway, in terms of score, I mean, I haven't listened to it yet, but honestly, for like the smaller things, unless there's like one of those weird like vote cancel out things, it's probably going to be The Brutalist. And I'm kind of in the same camp as a lot of you guys. I personally prefer scores that are more memorable, and then I'm just going to backtrack a little bit more. So, Mike, you were saying for Wicked for Best Original Score, I think there's actually a little bit of a case there. Is it probably my favorite score ever? No, but John Powell does have some really nice bits that do, I feel like, fit in and expands the narrative of Wicked. Do I think it will win? No, but I think you could at least make the case for a nomination. But honestly, I'm going to kind of have to agree with Kiona. I like me some Nine Inch Nails, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find that many other scores this year that were as much earworms as the Challenger score. So that's kind of the camp I'm in.
Yeah.
That score was the best part in what a movie that had the potential to be one of the better sport movies of a generation, only to evolve into something more tailor-made for the Lifetime Movie Network. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just, what the story construction, and then of course the choice and ending at that point of the match. But that's for another conversation.
I take umbrage with that comment, but okay.
So for my picks, I think I'm actually kind of torn. I think yes, The Brutalist right now is looking to be the front runner, but I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that Conclave might take that spot. As for what should win, assuming it's still in the conversation, I would like to see, if nothing else, The Wild Robot get nominated, because it's not often that scores for animated films are recognized in the greater conversation. But I think what Chris Bowers did for this movie was something really special. And for my long shot, again, speaking of scores in animated films, I think the score for Ultraman Rising is really good. And I'm not just saying that because Tim Henson from Polyphia played guitar on a couple tracks that are some of my favorites, but that's just me. Moving on to Best Original Song, a couple titles that are on the short list. We've got Winter Coat from the movie Blitz. Speaking of challengers, the track Compress Repress is on the list. Obviously, El Mal from Amelia Perez, and then Piece by Piece from the Pharrell Williams Lego documentary. And of course, Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot. So, Mike, I'll go to you first. Out of all the songs that are on this short list, do you have a pick for what will win, what should win, or any wild card? I know this is a tough one to call the winner for.
Well, it's not for me because I haven't seen nothing. But yeah, I would say "Gonna Build a Mountain," the Joker 2. I really like that song. So I could give you like a longer analysis of what I feel about the song, or I could just tell you what I think will win or what I won't think will win. I just remember being in the theater and hearing that song a few times because it basically was kind of a motif throughout the movie after Joker met Harley Quinn. And I don't know if by this point, spoilers are really a thing or not, but the movie was playing at this idea that basically they were going to go on like a genocidal like rampage, right? And it was really like playing with that idea. It was a massive subversion. That song was extremely vague. And gonna build a mountain of what? If you hear the song too, I don't have the lyrics in front of me. I'm not that prepared, but not only is it massively catchy, and it kind of plays into pre-existing ideas that you have about Joker and Harley Quinn and all these characters and whatnot. I just thought that it was such an interesting, like when that ultimately came not to be, and a lot of this was kind of a trick that was played on Joker, on Harley Quinn's part. I just think that it was just such a sucker punch. It did such a good job leading me on, even though it never explicitly said anything. It just really just highlighted the pre-existing thoughts I had about these characters already. And it really played into that, along with the very uplifting revival kind of, vibe that it had to it. It was amazing, So yeah, I really enjoy that. A lot of the movies I've seen, I wouldn't say have original songs. I haven't seen a ton of musicals except for that one. So I would say that, that would be on my personal list.
All right. Tommy, what about you? What do you have for best original song?
Well, I'll go ahead and read my 5 if I was reading this, my nominations on nomination morning. I would start with, in alphabetical order, I believe the nominees would be as follows: El Mal from Emilia Perez, Clement Ducal, Camille, and Jacques Audiard, songwriters. Forbidden Road from Better Man, Robbie Williams, Freddie Wexel, and Sasha Sarbeck, songwriters. Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot, DeLacy, Jordan Johnson, Stefan Johnson, Maren Morris, Michael Pollack, and Ali Temposi, songwriters. Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. Sir Elton John, Brandi Carlile, Andrew Watt, and Bernie Taupin, songwriters. And Out of Oklahoma from Twisters, Lainey Wilson, Luke Dick, and Shane McAnally, songwriters. I would say that the one thing that I think The Wild Robot did a disservice on is not co-campaign Kiss the Sky with Even When I'm Not, because that's what I think Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, they made a big mistake by going all in on Ciao Papa. As good of a song as that was, I didn't find it as emotionally compelling as when David Bradley sang My Son in that movie. So as wonderful of a song as Kiss the Sky is, and how I do believe it's going to be between that and El Mal to ultimately win Best Original Song, I think that DreamWorks didn't go as hard as they could have to emphasize the power of both original songs for the motion picture, with both Kiss the Sky and Even When I'm Not, in that sense. But I also believe that Twisters could have done more with their library of music. Obviously, Out of Oklahoma was the one they went all in on, but Ain't No Love in Oklahoma was reminiscent of what The Power of Love was from Back to the Future in that sense, because when you think back to the promotional material, they went all in on Back in Time, and specifically at that point in the movie, in the end, and that was the ultimate end credit song. But The Power of Love was the one that got the top 40 media attention. And I think that it's also a disservice that Jelly Rolls Leave the Light On was not more campaigned in that same respect for Best Original Song. This entire year has been a wonderful piece of music. In the case of Best Original Song, many worthy candidates, but I do believe that it'll ultimately come down to El Mal and Kiss the Sky. But it's really hard to pick something from that long shot sense, but it's competitive. The question, though, is what would make the final 5 on nomination morning.
Yeah, this is the one that I've been struggling with for a while. I think I feel comfortable saying that Elmal is probably going to be the will win. Should win is Kiss the Sky, and I guess because it didn't make the short list, I can use even when I'm not as my long shot, because I agree with what you said. Universal and DreamWorks should have submitted both and not just one or the other. I bet what happened is either one just got more votes, or they weren't trying hard enough and only campaigned Kiss the Sky.
Crying shame, it's a missed opportunity. Because that could have been a double nominee.
Exactly. Bree, what about you?
I mean, I kind of feel like we're in the same agreement. It should be Kiss the Sky. Will it be? I mean, who knows? I mean, I kind of get the hesitancy to double nominate after, I think it was the 2007-2008 Oscars, where 3 songs from Enchanted got nominated, and then they got canceled out by Falling Slowly from Once, a movie that I'm sure people super duper remember. But look, you guys already said the same points I made. All I'm just thankful is fucking Beyond probably is going to get nothing, because Moana 2 deserves fucking nothing.
Just to piggyback off of what you said, the last time Cameron and I talked about what movies are going to make it into Best Animated Feature, I have been emphasizing the point that if Frozen 2 couldn't get in, Moana 2 has zero chance. But we'll get to that category later.
And look, and I'm saying that some of the who will defend Frozen 2, even though like that documentary, that in the Sweatbox, I can't believe that Disney let this happen like again. But it's interesting from like a storytelling perspective. Like, I'm glad that documentary exists. And there's parts of Frozen 2 that I like, but narratively it is hot garbage from Beyond. But yeah, I don't think, other than the financial rewards they already have, things like Moana 2 should be rewarded. I just, on principle, I can't. No.
No Chi-Hu from the Academy this year.
No, thank you. Instead of you're welcome, just say no, thank you.
Gotta love the final boss going all Maui on both Raw and NXT this week.
I know. Yeah.
Fiona, what about you for Best Original Song? What do you got?
I agree with you, Mike, on the first 2. I think El Mal's probably going to win, and I think Kiss the Sky should win. And for me, the obvious choice for left field wild card would be Compress Repress. I think that was a very good song.
Hell yeah. Before we leave the music categories, I believe Tommy has a history lesson for the rest of us.
In the history of the Academy Awards, one of its rarest is that of Best Original Song Score. To qualify, the score must contain no fewer than 5 original songs. Designed for purpose, either as a voiceover or visual performance, the songs must be daintively rendered, clearly audible, intelligible, and must further the storyline of the motion picture. Because of this, arbitrary groups of songs unessential to the storyline would not be considered eligible, i.e., unoriginal needle drops. Since the award was last presented to Prince at the 57th ceremony, it sequestered to dormancy, not due to interest, but due to a prolonged drought of motion pictures that meet the eligible criteria. Every year, it is up to the music branch of the Academy's executive committee should the award be considered for revival. Could a case have been made to the music branch to revive Best Original Song Score for the 97th ceremony? Yes. With the case, one would plead a sense of adaptability in modernizing and providing legitimacy in the race. Similar to consideration for Best Picture, instead of the entire cast and crew, the producers of these song scores would be read as the nominees instead of the writers, which propelled the award to dormancy instead of advancement. Based on these guidelines, this is an example of how the nominees could be announced if the award were resurrected for the 97th ceremony. And they are Camille, Clement Ducol, and Selena Gomez for Emilia Perez, Lady Gaga, and Hildur Guðnadóttir for Joker Folie à Deux, Tom MacDougall, Mark Messina, and Lin-Manuel Miranda for Mufasa the Lion King, Ida Rose for Smile 2, and Ian Cripps, Brandon Davis, Joseph Corey, and Kevin Weaver for Twisters. So I pass this along to you. That's the case I would make if the Best Original Song Score were to be resurrected. A little bit of history with all the talk of new awards and resurrection. Something to think about for the future.
Indeed. So I guess we will move on to, and I know this is probably going to be a tough one because not a lot of these movies have been available for US distribution, but we'll give it a try anyway. Best International Film. So just as an example, in case you were curious what made the shortlist, from Brazil, we have I'm Still Here. From Canada, Universal Language. Czech Republic, Waves. Denmark, The Girl with the Needle. France, Amelia Perez. Germany, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. Iceland, Touch. Ireland, Kneecap. Italy, Vermilio. Latvia, Flow. Norway, Armand. Palestine, From Ground Zero. Senegal, Dahomey. Thailand, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. And in the UK, Santosh. Kiona, I'm gonna go with you first, just because I know you recently saw Flow. So state your case why that should win Best International Film.
Well, I think Flow is a remarkable cinematic achievement. Just the fact that it was made by primarily one person using Blender, of all things. And the water effects in that film are just incredible. So beautifully done. And the fact that there's no dialogue, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. It just centers around a cat, a little kitty cat, and animals of all kinds. There's a capybara. There's a lemur, by the way, Bree. There is a secretary bird. There's a golden retriever. It's just an amazing, amazing film. I think it has so much to say, and it literally holds up a mirror to us as people and as human beings, and just seeing, nature in this movie take over, and what life would be like if maybe, people weren't around. I think it was just an incredible cinematic journey. And I think that, like, for me, it touched my heart, and it was a movie where I was on the edge of my seat, and I honestly had a little bit of a hard time watching it because I don't like seeing little innocent animals in such life-threatening peril. It's a little difficult for me, but at the same time, after watching it, I felt like this movie is such an achievement. It's my number 2 favorite of last year, and I think that it definitely deserves to be not only Best Animated Feature, but also Best International Film, in my opinion.
I agree that it probably should win Best Animated Feature, even over my number 1 movie of the year, but we'll get to that category later. Josh, state your case for why you think Amelia Perez will win Best International Feature.
You think that's my case? I'm kidding. I mean, it's winning, obviously. Sorry, bad joke. It's winning because it's winning awards elsewhere. It seems to be the industry's favorite, regardless of the controversy around it. As for what should win, I mean, I've heard really good things about Seed of the Sacred Fig. There's a lot of historical significance behind that, of course. And then I'm Still Here. I really want to see that. I just haven't. It's not playing anywhere near me, unfortunately. As for like a wild card, I went to the movies last year and I saw Kalki 2898 AD, which was a pretty cool Telugu film that I could describe as like being the Tollywood version of Dune, but even more epic in my opinion. I highly recommend checking that out. It was pretty fun time. Of course, international blockbusters probably wouldn't ever get nominated in this category, which I would like to see. I mean, I think that's cool. I'm not one of those people who thinks there's like perhaps there is a stigma around blockbusters when it comes to the Academy, but I'm not someone who thinks that's necessarily a bad thing all the time. But anyway, I always am like fascinated by international blockbusters, and I often think that they're better than our blockbusters here. So I think they deserve to be recognized in this particular category as well. But I've yet to see that.
Yeah, you kind of brought up a good point, especially when it comes to the international branch. And One thing that kind of bothers me about the eligibility rules for Best International Feature is that, and I can understand to some extent why, they only allow one film per country. And I have no proof if this is like actually the reason, but there is some belief that the reason they do that is so that France doesn't take like all 5 spots. That could be totally wrong, but
I think each country has to select its entry as well. And then notably, the Oscar does not go to the filmmaker or even the producers.
It goes to the country.
Yeah, which makes no sense. I guess it's just in like the government, the state office or whatever, the capital, just sitting there behind the glass case, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Do you know if that's the case for animated feature as well? Like, who does that? What Oscar?
Best animated feature goes to the producers. I know that one for a fact.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of, in my opinion, reform that needs to happen with the international branch. But with that being said, Mike, out of all the titles that I mentioned, are there any that stick out to you?
Honestly, no. I do enjoy international film. Most of the movies that I enjoy are usually from the Asian countries. Probably excluding Bollywood because I haven't quite gotten the bug yet and the other Hollywoods. I've actually come to learn recently from an Indian friend I have on X that there's actually multiple, I guess, I don't know what you call them, Hollywoods for like the different districts in India. They have their own filmmaking infrastructure. So there's Bollywood's one of them. There's other ones as well.
Yeah, Bollywood. I'll just give a quick little primer. Bollywood is for Bombay, which is now Mumbai. That was the original, the colonized name when the British were there. So those are typically films produced in and around Mumbai that are in Hindi language. Tollywood, which recently we had RRR as the biggest global phenomenon.
I like that. Yeah.
Is Telugu, which is more out of Hyderabad, which is in the center of the country. And then you have movies in Marathi. I mean, like India has, I think, 60 something languages. I could be wrong, but a lot of those languages have their own distinct film industries. And fun fact, India produces more cinema in a year than the United States does. In fact, I believe they're number one in the whole world for output of cinema in a given year. And number two, it might have changed since I last checked, but number two is actually Nigeria, Nollywood. We're like 3 on the whole international ranking, which is something to keep in mind perspective wise.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, Japan, China, Korea, Philippines.
South Korea.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the other option? You're very silent.
Oh, no, I was just adding to your point that there's a lot of great cinema out in the East.
Yeah. What, is there some hidden filmography from the People's Republic that we don't know about?
Anyway.
But yeah, so that's, I do watch a lot of movies from those countries, those places. This is not on the list, but I think I would like to see it get some attention from the Academy. It's The Shadow Strays. Are you guys familiar with The Night Comes for Us?
Yes.
Yes. So that movie, I think, so the choreography is, and the camera work is innovative. It doesn't get talked about enough. The story, in my opinion, it's very uninspired. It's very played by the numbers. The acting performances are okay at moments, but in general, it's just not terribly inspiring when you're watching it. It's just feels like it's there just to get you from point A to point B. There's like no real depth there, which is fine. If you want to do a pure action movie, go for it. You can have a masterpiece that's just pure action, but it feels like they're spending too much time trying to entertain you with the story when in fact they're not very committed to it. That's what it feels like when you're watching it, right? So there was a lot of stretches in that movie where it felt like I don't really feel like my time is really being they're not really respecting my time, with the movie. And it's not really meant to go anywhere. It's just like you need to have something to pad out the scenes. And you could have even done that better, perhaps. But anyway, even with that said, the movie is still extremely entertaining with the highly innovative camera work, the editing, and the choreography, which is martial arts, different styles, different characters, different styles, and they fight. And just the clashing of these different styles and just the I mean, it's amazing. The cinematography is actually quite good too. I really like the very urban, dark, neon colored kind of style they have going on there. And they did a lot of those same things with The Shadow Strays. So the director from this movie, he did that. I also believe he worked with Gareth Edwards on VHS 2, a movie I haven't seen. But Gareth Edwards did The Raid, and it's very Raid-esque. So I'm guessing I haven't looked into the history of that, but there must be some sort of like connection there. But just like they have these really cool like rubber banding camera shots where like you see the camera move, like someone gets their head like knocked up against the side of a wall or pavement. The camera kind of like bounces with them, almost as if it's like attached to them, or their camera will kind of like whip around these super smooth motions that almost seem impossible for like a normal camera person to be able to do. I don't know how they do it, but it's extremely entertaining, extremely dynamic, extremely well done. And I think that martial arts movies, if they're not kind of like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, things like that, don't oftentimes get a lot of attention. And I think that, like, okay, so action movies always do. And I think that martial arts movies are amongst some of the most innovative, interesting, and beautiful action movies ever produced. And not to mention the stunt work, like stunt workers don't get enough.
1,000% agree. 1,000%.
Right. They don't even get enough attention. And they're putting their bodies and minds on the line, practicing down to it's perfection, So if we're talking about like something that deserves to be noticed, movies like that 100% do. And I think they just up the ante as far as cinematography is concerned. I think it looks better. I think it plays better. The story, you connect with the characters a lot better. I just think it's just a much better produced version of, and the story is different, but a much better produced version of The Night Comes for Us. So if I could like give a shout out to any movie international that came out this year, I would say that one.
Honestly, that's a really good pick. I wish more Indonesian films could have their time in the spotlight. Tommy, I'll go to you next. How do you feel about the international lineup this year?
I believe that the only 3 movies that I do see absolutely getting nominated are Emile Perez from France, I'm Still Here from Brazil, and Flow. So the rest of the race for those final 2 spots is wide open. We've got The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I'm making sure I'm pronouncing this right. Vermiglio from Italy. Anyway, from Ground Zero from Palestine. We've got Touch from Iceland. Our friends from Mubi have a movie out from Senegal called Dahomey. Let's see, we got Universal Language from Canada. Austria has a movie called The Devil's Bath, which is interesting. But if I was to give a special shout out to a particular international feature that I watched this year, it's not going to get any awards buzz, but I watched it. I loved it. I gave it a perfect score. It's the grittiness to it and how it's presented, especially with the life lesson that is the story, was a Norwegian film called The Arctic Convoy. I would definitely look into that one. It's available on Prime Video. If you haven't watched it, that would be my special shout out. But between the former 3 that I mentioned that I believe are locks to be nominated, it's a wide open race as to who could win. It's as wide open as Best Actress, which we'll get to later, but any one of those 3 could pull it off, and we would be happy about it no matter what.
Yeah. Bree, what about you?
So I haven't seen as many international ones. I did actually start reading Flo's screenplay, and from what I've read so far, I've been super impressed. But I mean, we all know it's going to be like Emilia Perez, because I guess that's going to be the film that the Academy like chooses. Like, not to sound like cliche, but it's like, it's going to be the gay, this film that the Academy leans towards, but, it's still like kind of problematic. But yeah, I need to still watch it, but I know I will probably have thoughts.
Don't worry. I completely understand. And I also need to give it its day in court, which I will probably do the day that the nominations are actually announced. But yes, I
It's giving me like intense like Dallas Buyers Club vibes.
Yeah, I was thinking that or Crash, which is the other movie this is getting compared to. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be either that or the Seed of the Sacred Fig, which takes the win. I still think Flow should win because for a film that has no dialogue and is just following this group of animals, it's like it locks you in throughout the entire runtime.
Legitimately. And it has some of the best characters in movies that I've seen. Like it's incredible.
Right. And just in general, I think we should, reward more creative screenplays like that. Because so much of that, like, since there is no dialogue, it's about conveying the emotions and like your scene descriptions, like the boarding. Like it's just like I'm not to like demean other forms of storytelling, but it's just like at such a different level of storytelling that we don't get to see as often in like the general like film space. Because even like independent film, I would still say is mainstream film. So I'm always in the camp that if you create something that's not common or is genuinely special, then that's the space for where you should be rewarded for your craft.
As for the wild card, this is just an excuse to shame India for not submitting All We Imagine as Light, a movie that I'm hoping to see soon. But again, kind of going back to my complaint about how the best international feature is handled, I really do think they need to change the nomination process. Maybe allow each country, instead of just one film, give them like 5, and then the rest of that branch can nominate from there.
No, I hard agree, especially when you had a situation like last year, just because of how late it came out, where Godzilla -1 probably should have been like Japan's like entry, because it picked up like all the local like Japanese like film awards and was one of the best films last year, but just the timing was just very unfortunate. I mean, I'm glad it picked up best visual effects, so it didn't completely go alone empty-handed. But yeah, I hard agree that the rules are kind of antiquated, and it really should just be voted down and narrowed down like any other Oscars category. It feels very, I guess the word would be reductive to me.
Speaking of visual effects, I guess we can talk about that next. Mike, this is your opportunity to sound off about Dune. So you have the floor.
The funny thing is that as much as I like Dune, I like Villeneuve, I like his style, I don't really have a lot to say about it. There are some situations where like individual scenes where I'll be like, okay, I like how they use color, or they use perspective, or they use contrast, or they use this or that, lighting, or in a particular scene, as far as like, the aesthetics and how, and, and what it looks like. But the thing is that, when you watch Dune, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like, it when you see it. I mean, anyone here who has seen it, it's just every scene just feels kind of like, the movie almost feels more like photography than it does cinematography. I would say, like, there's some directors and DPs who make their work look like a painting, and it has kind of like a painterly kind of look to it. I wouldn't say that that's what Denis does, even though there are several different scenes where you kind of just want to like screenshot it. But it's just the quality of the photography, is what I really enjoy about it. The portraits, lots of close-ups. I really appreciate that. And as big and sprawling of a world as Denis has, created or translated from the original story, he gets a lot of these intimate personal moments in there that I always appreciate. I like the contrast between, personal stories set in large scale conflicts and things like that. It's always very, very compelling. And he's done that before. Like his Incendie was like one of the first examples of that, a large scale conflict going on. And you have like these personal, familial and other kind of like struggles going on. So I think that Denis does that really, really well. And, the music, obviously, really added to that. We're talking about visuals right now. But yeah, I think when it comes to visuals, aesthetics, as Josh would put it, I I used to like try to like pretend or LARP as someone who knew like what all these pictures meant. Like I was just like, telling you like, oh, this means that and this means that. I don't always necessarily know the intention behind everything. But what I can say is that like the way that the knees work makes you feel, it just makes you feel like every single scene, every every frame feels grand and important. It just like that's just the way that it presents itself. And I think a lot of people who kind of, I guess, dislike or they kind of disregard his work oftentimes do so because of that. Either his work is pretentious or like, oh, why are you focusing so much on like, and it's funny. He was having a discussion with Luca Guadagnino. I watched it. It was actors on, or directors on directors for Variety. Josh sent me the link to that. And he was talking about how he wishes he could have gotten even more visually coded with the movie and even put even less dialogue in there. But he's just like, yeah, it's just, he had to work studio and that just it wasn't meant to be, is what he basically said. So I think that I really enjoy his sensibilities. One of his first movies that he made was called Polytechnic. Very harrowing. It's about a school shooting in a school, I believe in France, called Polytechnic, and it's mostly silent. It's black and white, 4:3, and I think that was like probably one of his first times he really experimented, Denis, with trying to convey as much as possible through nonverbal. And to be honest, a lot of the reason why there was no dialogue wasn't because he just hit the mute button, in the editing bay, is because people were hiding under tables and gesturing to each other and stuff. Like that's the reason why it was silent. So it was very palpable, And I think that really translates to a lot of his work. Even when there is dialogue, you can always tell that it's something that always serves the story. Like, listen, I'm not going to include it unless I absolutely have to, which is, there's evidence that he actually, in that interview, that's what he intends to do. He wants to be, and he said that he didn't even think that he really did it as well as he could have. He wants to really kind of embrace the language of cinema. I think is the term that he used. I'm super pretentious, but you know what? I'm done acting like I don't like pretentious stuff. I absolutely do. So yeah, I think that's definitely up there. I honestly, to be frank, I think Kevin Costner's Horizon also deserves to be looked at. I know it won't. I don't think it's on the list, and I know him and Megalopolis as well. Both are probably not going to be given really any attention. But I do think that Dune is probably the obvious front runner based on what I know, and I don't know a lot because again I haven't seen as much as I would have liked to this season. But even with that said, I do think that Kevin Costner should be looked at. I just think that he painted a really great picture, the sprawling, untouched, West, as it were. And Megalopolis, I think, does one of the better jobs with trying to integrate a very like the digital look of Megalopolis and the large-mindedness of the story and the philosophical nature of the story. Typically, you think when you think about those kinds of themes, you think about a movie that looks something. It's more traditional. It's on photochemical. It looks like more traditional. But I think that he absolutely did a good job making an argument for a very digital looking film. I'm not usually all about that. Even if you do shoot in digital, I kind of like to see some more traditional, more contrasty, more just untraditional looking images in your movie, even if you are shooting on digital. But I think that Megalopolis actually does like a really good job actually making an argument for that. So yeah, and even then, I wouldn't even say that it's that digital, but it's weird, and the visuals are something that you wouldn't really expect the kinds of visuals that you're seeing in a movie And there's so much in that movie too that maybe, there is no expectation. So, but yeah, I'm kind of starting to ramble now. But I kind of touched on a few different things. I like, I wish Coppola would get some attention. He's been so highly maligned that, it's unfortunate, but he made it. And I think that's what's important. And same thing with Kevin Costner. Denis, I think, this is kind of a little side tangent. I feel like Denis I really miss his Incendie and Polytechnic days. And I think there was kind of like a switch during Arrival in 2014 to something. Was it 2016? Wow. I thought it was like the same or like right after Man of Steel came out in 2013, but okay. Or maybe I'm thinking BVS maybe. But anyway, yeah, I feel like there was a switch where he started to focus on trying to elevate more high concept, sci-fi, blockbuster-ish-esque kind of themes, topics, movies. Kind of like what Nolan's doing. I don't think it really is serving him the best. I think he still does incredibly well, but I really would like to see him return to form. So that doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about. But I even with all that said, people think that I'm an apologist for Denis. I'm quite frustrated that he hasn't gone back to his more, international French film kind of roots. And I wish he would bring some more of that back.
I actually kind of agree with that. But with Nolan, I kind of miss the Memento days where he was doing more smaller scale stuff. But, I'm also excited that he's taking on the Odyssey. But
yeah, same. That's exactly how I feel. It's like, it's like, okay, you have your filmmakers that can only do so much at once. And to see them elevate certain elevate and or bring certain kinds of movies or stories, translating them into screen for the mass audience, because there will be a mass audience because they have the fortune of being someone who has a very cinematic ethos about them, while also having a connection with a large general audience. So it's like, okay, do you want to try to elevate the floors? If you want to put, that's a very pretentious thing to say, but I don't care. Do you want to elevate the floor, or do you want to just keep making high art kind of movies that we aren't really getting as much anymore? Well, they aren't quite as available or as accessible as maybe they once were, and you have the, your Eggers and all that, but I don't know. It's all just a notion I get. I'm not, this is very unscientific, but it's just a notion I get. But yeah, no, I totally agree with your thoughts on Nolan as well. It's like, do you want him to be doing an Oppenheimer when he could be doing a Memento? I feel like there's something about their success that seems a little poignant at times. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Right on. I guess we're kind of covering multiple below the line categories at this point. So Josh, I don't know, sound off on Wicked and how many below the line categories you think it deserves.
Wicked, probably. Well, costume design and production design, I think it's kind of a shoe-in for those two. Probably not visual effects. I mean, there's a visual effects shot right now that's engaging in Twitter discourse as we speak. I keep seeing it being shared, and it's the opening shot of the movie, which I like. Mike doesn't. That's a whole other conversation. And I've spent many, many, many minutes, hours, days analyzing and thinking about Wicked's aesthetics. So I would say that's like a long shot wild card for best cinematography, but I would like literally love for that to be nominated for best cinematography, because I just want to see film Twitter have a massive meltdown. And I'll be like Regina George standing in the corner with my arms crossed, smirking at everyone. Literally, I like this.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
Exactly. No, because I mean, for me, that I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I think it's the cinematography, as much as people do not like it and perhaps don't understand it in the present moment, I think it has merit and value, if for no other reason that it is authentic and genuine. I think a lot of people are judging it within the confines of corporate slop, and I don't think it's corporate slop at all, just as Dune Part 2 and Furiosa are not corporate slop. I mean, they are to an extent, but the filmmakers have control and...
Yeah, no, I mean, that Wicked was clearly made by people who gave a shit.
Exactly. And on every level, including cinematography. And people may judge that from certain merits, but I think people are being a little too rigid, perhaps, and a little too traditionalist and perhaps even fundamentalist in how they view aesthetics. And I found Wicked's realism, digital aesthetic to be kind of beyond boundary pushing. And I think a lot of people aren't ready for that yet. But so that's my wild card in terms of Wicked and tech categories. VFX, like I said, I think it's, as Brie mentioned before, and I didn't even think about this till you said so, Brie. I think it has like a really good marrying of practical with visual effects. And I didn't really think of it in that, or look at it in that context, but you're right. It has been a while since we've seen a movie that's married the two. But it's design elements in general. I think it is a lock to win production design and costume design. VFX, I think probably Dune Part 2 is what's going to win, who I think should win. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I love like performance capture. I think that is the future of cinema. That is obviously uber expensive to produce and requires a very refined skill set to make a movie within that medium or whatever you want to call it. But I think we need to keep rewarding movies that are heavily performance capture based, because I want to see more. I want to see dramas that are performance capture based. Oh, I also throw in Robert Zemeckis is here as a wild card for VFX, because I mean, I know that's a controversial choice because there was some AI in that, although I don't think it was generative. I don't quote me on that, but I thought that movie was a very also aesthetically boundary pushing movie. It was like diorama cinema, which I had never seen before. And I thought the movie was very effective in utilizing that. So yeah, that's my take on VFX, costume design, production design, cinematography. Nosferatu. Come on, like that's like a movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes.
I love Nosferatu. That movie rocked my world. And it was not even the first time, the second time I saw it, I was like, oh. So yeah, my choices.
And Josh, to piggyback off of what you said about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes for visual effects, I would say the ideal 4 that I expect, that I see getting nominated, not expect, would be Better Man, Dune Part 2, Wicked, and Twisters. But for that final spot, like, what would be, if one were to plead cases for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes versus Mufasa the Lion King, how would they go about it and why?
I have an answer to that. If you can find it, watch the behind the scenes version of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where it's just a version of all the actors just wearing their mocap suits, and it's all just like the blue and green screen. Watch that and then go back and watch theatrical cut, and you can fully appreciate what, like, all the movie magic that went into bringing those characters to life.
Yeah. Oh, I also forgot to mention. I agree with you, Mike. Mike Kaye. I forgot that actually came out, and you just reminded me. I'm going to go back and check that out. But whenever I see those like side by side comparisons for the Avatar films, it's like I have to watch the clips like 5 times. I have to go back and watch it over and over again, because I'm like, this is legitimately like incredible, breathtaking filmmaking. But other thing I wanted to mention about VFX that I forgot, Furiosa. I'm not the biggest fan of that movie, but I do think that its use of VFX is very impressionistic, is the term I would use. And I think people have gotten over it. I remember when the movie came out, there was like a little bit of agitation on the cinephile part for the movie not being similar to Fury Road, or not as practical, even though Fury Road has a ton of visual effects in it as well. But I think Furiosa is different and uses its VFX in a way that it like creates a whole separate aesthetic world that you enter into. So I think that should also be in consideration. If not win, I'd be like really happy if that movie won for VFX.
I won't derail everything, but your comments beg a response from me. I would love to hear one day, or if we could somehow tie this into the podcast somehow, the difference between realism and realisticness. You know, if there is a difference, because a lot of digital movies oftentimes use a lot of CGI, which is very obviously not. It doesn't look real, right? And you're constantly aware that it's not real. But at the same time, a lot of these very digital movies, if they're done right, according to some, is a display of realism, which is actually applaudable. So that's just something really interesting to talk about. But I just wanted I had to say that. I had to put that out there.
Yeah, start a Twitter space sometime. I'm down to join.
Yeah.
I think the way, how should I put this? I think the best way to it's production design. That's how you can really make the distinction between realism and realistic, immersion into a film. So Bree, I will let you sound off.
Yeah, just to agree with you, like 100%, like that is absolutely it. So since I don't really fuck with Twitter anymore, I have been blissfully unaware of whatever Bullfit's film Twitter's having. But honestly, the thing with like Wicked both surprises me and like doesn't surprise me because, okay, just for like to give it context, the show I have seen at the Gershwin twice and on a national tour once, so I am very familiar with the show's production design, which is very like steampunky, but still like obviously Oz. Because that's kind of the vibe of the show, and also because for copyright reasons, we have to have legally distinct Wizard of Oz, which, fun fact, Alphaba's dress in the stage show is actually technically purple, not black, because they cannot be black with that specific green, because that is copyrighted from the 1939 version. So a lot of, interesting maneuvering to legally distinct Oz. It's fucking stupid. But in terms of like Wicked and like the thing, I guess, that is setting people off, like, because you're adapting like a pre-existing piece of media. And I feel like the thing that Wicked understands specifically in terms of both adapting a piece of media and just being a musical film by itself is that film language and musical language are two distinctly different things. Like, even like in the performances, both Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo have experience in both stage and screen. Like, they fundamentally understand the difference versus something like Dear Evan Hansen, which is its own debate. I honestly, whenever I think of Dear Evan Hansen, I just think of Jenny Nicholson's cosplay review video of it.
Oh boy.
Honestly, it's more entertaining than the actual thing. And honestly, like, watching that video just gave me like an existential crisis. But anyway, in terms of like narrative language, when you're adapting like a musical, like the way a musical narrative and a film narrative are obviously two very distinctive things. And that is something that on the stage where you can like apply or feel the vibes. On film, like I don't want to say like explain it more because I think that's kind of dumbing it down a little bit, but you have to kind of give different visual cues versus the stage show where you're playing for cheap seats and you could just have the audience apply things. Like, if you're setting up a narrative in like continuity in film, obviously it's a different beast, but I feel like the film still understands like the language and the narrative of like the stage show. It also helps that Winnie Holtzman came back to do the screenplay for the film adaptation, so having most of the same production people from the original musical does definitely help. But I feel like in terms of like, you have all the musical numbers, say something like Dancing Through Life, like you still have like that same energy, but you're picking up on all the little like character nuances and you're filming it in a way that the feelings of like the musical numbers are enhanced in a way that the general audience can understand. And out of curiosity, what are the things that they're specifically like kind of calling it out for? Because I just want to see like how much bullshit we're talking.
You're asking what Twitter is saying about Wicked?
No, I'm like, what specifically, like in terms of like the cinematography, whatever, is just making
they think
angry.
It's washed out because of the backlighting, and they think you can't really discern shadows or. But like my argument for that is it's like a digital movie. Also, I saw the movie in 3D. The first time I was really like taken aback by the visual look because I thought a lot of people think it looks like a credit card commercial. But like I honestly think that, to go to Millennial Mike's point, this striving for realism, John M. Chu's whole his reason for choosing the aesthetic of the movie is because he wanted it to be Wizard of Oz is a dream. So it's in Technicolor because Dorothy falls asleep and she wakes up at the end of the movie and it's back in black and white or sepia, whatever. But he wanted the movie to look like waking life. So you would feel that Oz was a real place because he wanted to make Glinda and Elphaba's journeys feel real. Now you can argue about the merits of doing that until you're blue in the face, and people aren't really doing that. I think they're reacting to the visual look of the movie, not from a creative standpoint. They're reacting to it as they would a Disney movie, because that aesthetic is oftentimes dictated by a corporation. Like, I really think the distinction is just that. It's like the aesthetic was not chosen to look like a credit card commercial so that it could be played on TikTok or be consolidated and compressed so people could watch it on their phones. I legitimately do not think that is why John Inchu and Alice Brooks decided to shoot the movie that way. They are shooting it in the way that they want because they have a specific creative vision that they want to bring across, and people are not visually calibrated as of this point in time, I don't think.
Let me throw in a third perspective here.
Okay.
Because so, like, okay, on one hand, the people who, and there are some like Josh who are applauding the movie for what it is doing, or they're defending it or apologizing for it, or
I think I'm the only one who is.
No, there are some, but the ones that I've seen seem to point out the fact that the people who are kind of balking at this might be too attached to the original Wizard of Oz. And the thing is that I don't care about the original Wizard of Oz. And honestly, I don't really get the impression that a lot of cinephiles even care that much about the original Wizard of Oz. It's not like a nostalgia thing. And in general, I don't really think a lot of cinephiles, I think cinephiles are usually more attached to like certain esoteric ideas than they are about the pure nostalgia of properties and franchises, So what the issue that I'm seeing here is that I feel like people are talking past each other. I think that like the people who I've seen defend Wicked, or at least what they'll say is they dislike they'll point out like the hypocrisy or the some of the weaknesses of the arguments of people making complaints about Wicked. Maybe they might say, oh, you'll complain about Wicked, but you won't complain about something that we know is slop that looks worse than Wicked, or something like that. Like, there are people who are defending it, maybe not in the exact same merits as Josh, but they're still doing it, right? And I feel almost like, okay, there's probably multiple sects of cinephiles that have different kind of aims or different kinds of, ideas about, what they want or what should be. For me, it's like, I don't feel so like, okay, let's kind of take it one by one. So like the whole waking life situation, like, this is the thing, right? If it's intentional, it's good. And I'll defend a movie based on that. But I will still say I don't like the way it looks. Okay. I don't like it. It's not appealing to me. It doesn't capture me. It doesn't inspire me. It doesn't excite me or anything. Right.
And that's valid. You're coming at the conversation on good faith. I'm like, it's the whole good faith, bad faith thing. I don't think people are actually listening to what the filmmaker is saying, or they're actually giving him the benefit of the doubt in terms of him. Like, they think, and I'm guilty of this too. I remember when that quote first came out, I thought he was just being a corporate stooge, but then I saw the movie, I watched it. I watched the Vanity Fair breakdown of the Dancing Through Life scene, and then I saw the authenticity from him and his cinematographer, and I saw, no, this is an intentional creative choice, and that literally completely reframed how I looked at the situation. But people don't actually listen to the filmmaker. You see the same thing happening right now with Nosferatu, which has gotten acclaim, yes, but there is like a high amount of people, cinephiles, that I am noticing who are pissed at the movie because they're judging it explicitly through the lens of, is this like the original silent film? Is this like Coppola's Dracula? Is this like Herzog's Nosferatu? I'm like, guys, it's not the movie that you've already seen. Listen to the filmmaker, try to approach it on its own terms. Like, I've seen kind of like offensive stuff said about Nosferatu, that it's not horny enough, that Robert Eggers...
Yeah, that legitimately pissed me off.
And I'm like, the movie is about sexual assault, you guys. Like, it's...
Yeah, I know, it's like, dude, like, he raped her. Like, what do you not get?
That's why, like, I value the filmmaker and the artist so much, because it is their vision, and it's, their collaborators' vision. And you, as a viewer, you need to get over yourself. Honestly, like, that's pretty much where I'm at. That doesn't dismiss specific criticism like what you might have, Mike, about like, this is why I don't personally like it. That lens, I'm like totally game for. I just don't think there's a lot of that. I think it's people not getting over themselves or getting over preconceived notions and then judging the movie negatively because it doesn't meet their expectations going in.
I think so. In my experience, when I'm having discussions about movies, things that frustrate me oftentimes aren't about people's conclusions. It's not about what people's conclusions are. I oftentimes have an idea of why someone may have come to conclusion, and in my head, that reason, right, that thought process that I have projected on that person is what frustrates me. Like, oh, they probably came to this conclusion because of this, and that idea frustrates me. So even people who like things that I like, I get frustrated sometimes because I feel like they came to this conclusion through a certain way. I think that might be what you are maybe experiencing, Josh, because there are a lot of people who don't really have the lexicon to say like, oh, this is washed out, looks like a credit card commercial, or it doesn't, the contrast doesn't offer the movie the ability to define, certain kinds of themes at certain times. Like they're not really coming at it from that angle at all. They get a feeling because they've seen many, many movies that look like that and are very uninspired. They're very corporate and they're very just empty, right? And then they watch this movie and it looks similar enough to that it invokes all of those things. And if we're to believe that, aesthetic theory and color theory and all these sort of things, that there's like some sort of a, relatively objective reality to that, right? Or that there's some sort of like innate response people have, then maybe there is actually some underlying reason why if you make your movie look like this, it's not going to inspire people. Now, you can, of course, calibrate yourself. Anyone can calibrate themselves, like make themselves, get over themselves, as you would put it, or make themselves try to put something behind. But then at that point, you're kind of fighting with yourself. So what that might sound like me watching Wicked, if I did, right? I might be like, well, I don't innately like this, but having put that aside, I can see the benefits here and there, and I appreciate it and respect it and like the movie from that standpoint. But if it was something that I liked, that looked good, that inspired me, then it would have just been more of a natural, like, oh, this is beautiful, I like it, And for whatever reason, if John Chu, if he was as intentional as some people, such as yourself, are saying, he probably considered that, if he had all of the ideas.
Or maybe he didn't. He doesn't have to think about the audience.
The other thing too is like people, like film Twitter has this really hard hate on for John Chu that I don't get, and it's kind of
who cares
weird.
About John Chu? Like either way, like who cares one way or the other? What was he did?
But Mike, you've spent how many years have you spent trying to discredit claims against Zack Snyder? Like, I'm just seeing patterns pop up with filmmakers and how they're talked about, and it's
exactly.
They're not being taken on the terms.
It's like so weird.
Yeah, no, that's true. You're right.
So I just see it with Eggers happening right now in real time too, and it's just like, you guys, you're not like. I don't know. You've got to meet the work where it's at. And I feel like a lot of people aren't doing that, but I can't control people. I think a lot of people who discuss art don't actually know what art is. Like that's
they don't.
Well, they don't have an idea. They don't have like a philosophy, because the thing is, like, even that is debated among people who believe they know what art is. Like, I believe I know, you believe that you know, and we have discussions about it. Like, me is like form is function. So if the movie was made with that ethos in mind, right? That form is function. There's something to be said of art even at a higher level than that. We're talking about movies, and even I guess that even applies to like really any sort of physical high art, like presented kind of. Even any kind of art, really. I think form is function. Like, you need to think about what the form is and how that expresses its, like, every piece of art is valid and important in and of itself. A movie is good because it's a movie, and the more it embraces its moviness, the more it plays into the artistic ethos, in my opinion. You know,
This is why I really hate when people try to use style over substance
Yeah,
as a criticism.
yes.
And
100%.
speaking of the substance, yeah, this is one of these movies that I really hope has like a more has like a big presence in the awards race, because
I have a feeling it will.
I know it will once we get to the above the line categories, but for now, other than Demi Moore for Best Actress, I think its best chance right now is
Screenplay?
screenplay. Yes, as far as the nomination goes, but I was going to say hair and makeup, and I haven't seen it yet, but there's a behind the scenes featurette going around that goes behind the scenes of all of the practical effects and the creation of the monster Eliza shoe. That whole the whole ending of The Substance, like all of that, just great stuff. And I also think it's not on the short list, but for my wild card for best sound, I would also seriously campaign for that, just for the scene of Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp in the restaurant scene. You like one of the most disgusting things I've seen all of last year, but it's entirely because of the sound design in that scene. The sound design in that scene is so affecting, of just perfectly encapsulating what awful, disgusting individual Quaid's character is in that moment.
Well, not only in that moment, but in the overall movie itself. And of course, his character name would be Harvey. But like that, the entire editing, the pristineness of that editing, the way the movie is shot, and the sound design from that restaurant scene to the sound effects of the cooking when Elizabeth opens the French book for the first time. Like, it's those little tidbits really plead that case in that specific category. And though one does have to admit that when the blood is poured in that particular moment in the movie, that shot of Dennis Quaid covered in blood was pretty priceless.
Yeah. Fiona, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. Any thoughts on this medley of below the line categories before we move on to the big leagues?
Sure, I'll just go kind of rapid fire because just for the sake of brevity. I'm just going to say for costume design, production design, I'm going to agree with Josh, and I'm going to say Wicked probably will take those home. For visual effects, I wish Deadpool and Wolverine would get something, so I'm going to say that, but I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be probably something like Dune, maybe Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, something like that. For cinematography, I definitely think it's going to be The Brutalist or Dune. And what else? What else did we cover? Film editing? Left field choice would be Challengers, but I think something that should win would be something like Conclave.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, The Substance for film editing, I think, would be an interesting choice. Yeah.
It does have a case in editing, especially in those aforementioned moments that I said.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
All right. Are you guys ready for the big leagues?
Sure. Yes.
But we weren't already talked about the big leagues?
Well, you know what I meant. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because Cameron and I have gone over this category many times, but because I don't know the rest of your guys' opinion, we'll briefly touch on best animated feature. So really quick, I just want everyone's will win, should win, and maybe a long shot. So Tommy, I'll go with you first. What do you got?
Well, The Wild Robot is absolutely the one that I do believe I see it in the lead right now, but I would be remiss to not say that Blow, it just came off a pit road, has 4 fresh tires, made a track bar adjustment, and is gaining 9/10 of a second a lap and climbing. So that's the best way to describe this race, while also saying that Inside Out 2 is destined to be nominated as well. Memoir of a Snail is there as well. As far as the final spot, and I will leave this up for debate, but I would say the final spot would be between Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, or Chicken for Linda. That said, I was having a conversation with somebody recently, a fellow critic, and every year I ask myself, if there was one category that has the potential to be a tie, what would it be? And I believe that this year it's Best Animated Feature. I believed early in the campaign it would be between Wild Robot and Inside Out 2. But now with Flow gaining so much traction, anything is possible. This is still a wide open race. I'd like to see Wild Robot win, but I would not be upset at all if either Flow or Inside Out 2 pulled it off. I would be very pleased.
So at the start of award season, I was convinced that the Wild Robot was like, the done deal, absolute king of the mountain winner. But the more I start to see all the different regional critic groups pick Flow as their winner, I started to second guess myself. So while I still ultimately think the Wild Robot will take Best Animated Feature at the Oscars and absolutely is going to win the Annie, because Flow and the Wild Robot are not in the same category at the Annies. One is for obviously US release animated feature, and Flow is independent foreign film. But that also just goes to your point about if there was going to be a tie, though that would be my tie right there. Josh, what about you? How are you feeling about the animated feature race?
Not good. No, I did see Wild Robot and I didn't really like it. I'm sorry, so I'm not gonna.
What?
Yeah, I found it very emotionally manipulative and not in a way that movies are supposed to be. But
That's get him the F out of here.
well, maybe I need to rewatch it. I'm not. I'll put a pin in that. But I really want to see Flow. I haven't seen it yet. So, that seems to be gaining steam. More and more people are watching it. I feel like that has a real shot of winning. At least that's the vibe in the sense that I get. As for like wild card animated film, I haven't really seen too much animated films this year. Can I say, no, that's not a film. I was going to say Twilight of the Gods, but that's a TV show. Yeah, I guess I just don't really have an answer for that. I mean, off the top of my head right now, I don't. I might chime in a minute once I look up animated films for 2024.
I would highly recommend you watch Flow. And you know what? I would recommend for you personally, give Memoir of a Snail a watch.
Okay. I will add them both to my list.
Absolutely.
Mike, what about you?
No one has mentioned Look Back. I am ashamed.
Thank you.
You know what? I'll build on this. I don't think any of the major film pundits last year expected Robot Dreams to make it into the fifth spot at last year's Academy Awards. So, there is a non-zero chance that Look Back gains enough momentum to sneak in.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a 100% guarantee, but
Yeah.
that's a great long shot pick.
Yeah, Look Back is the trouble with animated films is, I find, is that you either so the style and the subject are always okay. So a lot of times what I find is that if you have a disparity between the style and the subject, it's looked at as kind of goofy, kind of weird, and it's not really artsy enough to be considered, right? So if you have something that's like very kind of like very cartoony, but it's also very violent or explicit in some kind of way, then that's just a little too quirky to be considered like something that's worthy of the Oscars or like awards, right? And if you want to do something that's more serious, it needs to look quote unquote more serious. This has just been a stigma against animation that's just been basically impossible to break, especially in the West for like ever. If you know about animation, then you're familiar with all that. Now, having that said, I think that Look Back does a really good job with kind of the animated style it's anime, right? It's Japanese. Although if you are passionate about anime and animation in general, then you might see the variety within Japanese animation. If you disregard the variety, then you probably just aren't very passionate about anime, and therefore it all is just the same, right? But I find that Look Back has a very refined style. The animation, I think they made a lot of really important choices with choosing, because it is based on a manga or a Japanese comic, a one shot based on, I think it's based loosely on the massacre that happened at the KyoAni animation studio. If someone correct me if I'm wrong about that, but about two people involved tangentially with that, and it's a very serious kind of like, what would you call it? Kind of like an autobiographical, not autobiographical, because the producer, the director wasn't. It's not about him, but it's like a biographical kind of story. And the animation, I feel, is very. It doesn't embrace all of the conventions of anime that really make it stand out. It's very cinematic in a lot of ways, and the way that it transitions, and the editing, and the movements. These are things that you can't see in the manga, so that it's exclusive to the movie, right? I watched. I went to a small, like, special theatrical release, and if you stay after the movie, there was like an interview with the people involved in the production, and they were talking about what kinds of things that they did to bring it to life, from the original story. And I just think that it's one of the better adaptations I've seen from any comic, period, because the choices that they made were very inspired. Like, there was one scene that was basically a page that they extended for like several minutes. It was just like one of the characters kind of skipping and frolicking, running alongside a puddle laden dirt road as she came home from, I think it was a school. I forgot where she was at the time. But it's one of those things where you have to just see it to understand. It's extremely emotionally compelling. And the characters are so human and lifelike, despite it being animation, because of these little flourishes that they added. I just think that so much passion went into it. And the story is extremely compelling. It's extremely cathartic, and it's just very life affirming. And it's just something that I just feel like it's kind of like, in my experience. I mean, I've seen a lot of different kinds of animation. Even I could probably expand the kind of animation that I watch, but I just felt like it really stood above a lot of things that I've seen in the past. That kind of wanted to stick to some of the conventions a little too much. I think this kind of broke all those conventions in the right ways.
Well said. Bree, what about you?
For me, honestly, I'm so glad, Mike, that you brought up Look Back, because that might sneak in. The other one that I think might sneak in as a, because we always have to have our what the fuck pick, because would it truly be a war season, specifically the Academy Awards, if it wasn't? I think Piece by Piece might kind of sneak in, like, very randomly. Like, I don't know why. I mean, it just is something that I'm just thinking might happen. But in terms,
not to go all Jeff Snyder on you, but I just don't know how the Academy would see the appeal, as wonderful as it would be. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know how the appeal would be over something like Mufasa the Lion King in that sense.
I'm not saying it would, but I could definitely see that be as a random, if something got canceled out. So here's like our number 5 pick. But honestly, I know I joked about the Golden Globes not being a real award show, but in terms of animated feature, I think they did get this right. And I think Flow has like the right momentum. I mean, look, I did enjoy Inside Out too. Did I enjoy it more than the first Inside Out? Probably not. I don't think it had the exact same like emotional weight. Not that it was bad. It was just like, okay, that was fine. I enjoyed it. But I really do think it is down between Flow and the Wild Robot. And I feel like not just in animated features, but in general, I feel like there is, in very few categories, a direct front runner. So in terms of like, for award season, it definitely makes it more interesting. It just, this year, like for film, again, very strange, kind of light year until you got into like the last couple of months of 2024. So I don't know, like, honestly, I'm kind of torn, and I'm with Tommy. I wouldn't be mad if either of those won.
Same. Kyono, what about you?
I agree with all of you, and I think that the one that will win is probably the Wild Robot. I think the one that should win is definitely Flow, obviously, from how much of an affinity I have for it. And complete left field, no chance in hell of this one winning. Transformers 1.
This is the second year in a row that Paramount just was
completely dropped the ball. Paramount they are like so dysfunctional. This is like ever since they lost the right to the Marvel movies, like they've just completely, literally like a baby throwing shit on the wall, just hoping something sticks. Like
they
they've had cases.
They sold it. It's like you made it seem like they just like, someone came in and said, no, you're not allowed to have this anymore. Bad Paramount. Like, no, like they were complicit.
Yeah, I know. Like, I understand. It's so like dysfunctional, which sucks because they still make like legitimately great movies, but they can't market them for shit.
Are we talking about TF1? So are we like TF1 stands in this house, or what's up here?
Stan is a strong word, but I did quite
a strong affinity.
We're selling movies here, bro. We're campaigning for awards-winning movies.
I was convinced that movie would suck ass, and you know what? It turned out to be pretty good. I'm honestly not against it.
Right, because Paramount's marketing team, like, between that and like the TMNT movies, I don't know why. Like all their movies, especially their animated ones, have like some of this most god awful dog shit egg campaigns. Like, haha, it's jokes for kids, and it's like, no, like you have maybe like if you actually market this shit, like you could probably do 300 or 400 million like worldwide. I don't understand, and it makes my head hurt.
And bro,
it's narrative control. With franchises, they're constantly trying to be reactive and just, even if a movie isn't actually a reaction in itself, in the work and the text, the campaigns, the ads, the marketing is especially always trying to spin a narrative that they're aware of what came before, and this is just like that, or it's not like that at all. And that's been the downfall of so many studios when it comes to franchise filmmaking.
And going back to my case for Michael Giacchino's score for If, like I was like when it came out, I was having conversations with viewers at Cinepolis, talking about that sound and comparing it to trademark original scores from John Williams, for example, like Harry Potter, Jaws, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, The Raiders March, so on and so forth. Like it's that staying power, availability. That's the key. That's the selling point. And again, drop the ball. What happened? Yeah.
One last dig at Paramount before we move on.
Go ahead, bro.
Guess who is distributing Better Man?
Oh, I know.
and guess who hasn't released, as far as I know, a single domestic trailer for that movie?
Would it be 1 Paramount Pictures?
I'll beg
2 Paramount Pictures. 3 Paramount Pictures.
Well, here's the thing, bro. Like when you look at how my Molly Russo's coming in now.
The Russo, there it is. There it is.
No, but here's the thing, bro. When you look at how it, when you think back to it, I think now it all makes sense because they're going all in on Better Man. That they said that they're probably saying nothing else matters because of how the overwhelmingly positive reception in both Los Angeles and New York. It opened this weekend wide, and so we'll see over time how much the staying power has with it. So we'll see, but that's probably where all the campaigning has leaned towards, because when you think back to that, and specifically in the cases of visual effects and original song, for example, that's probably where they're going all in on in that regard.
Well,
you're probably right.
Well, also the other thing they're kind of stuck in a tough corner is like me, like personally, the only thing like I remember about Robbie Williams, along with like Millennium, used to play all the time in like this bowling alley I used to bowl to as a kid. Americans don't know who the fuck Robbie Williams is, so that's
a fair point.
Unless you're in a specific, not demographic or environment, but talking about going back to talking about auto racing for a second. if it wasn't for when in the midst of the open wheel split, which there was a period of civil war between two factions, the championship auto racing teams and the Indy Racing League, right before the series merged back, the open wheel racing merged back together in the United States, the championship auto racing teams were bought out by a new series of owners called the Open Wheel Racing Series, and they called themselves the Champ Car World Series. And they had an in-house production of telecasts. Their theme song was "Let Me Entertain You," and dating back to the final year that CART was broadcast by ABC and ESPN, they had one of their pre-race highlight reels featured "Let Me Entertain You" as a song. So if you're an auto racing historian, specifically in open wheel racing and IndyCar, that's the one selling point from that regard. Unless, of course, you watch BBC America and reruns of the Graham Norton show, or a good introductory interview to who Robbie Williams is for those who may be unfamiliar with his work, and his body of music is actually really good. I mean, Angels, Let Me Entertain You, so on and so forth, is on Collider Video, their Ladies Night channel. There's an episode of Collider Forces where Robbie Williams is the subject, and it's absolutely spectacular. So go check that out if you haven't.
Agreed. So now we move on to Best Original Screenplay. Now, according to Gold Derby, in the lead right now is Honora, followed by The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance, Hard Truths, September 5, All We Imagine Is Light, Challengers, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Saturday Night. These are the 10 in order of odds. Josh, I'm gonna go to you first. What do you think will win, should win, and what is your wild card for Best Original Screenplay?
Best Original Screenplay. Can I do original and adapted right now? Is that possible?
Yeah, we can combine them.
So original, I think it's either going to be Honora or The Brutalist, because those are Conclave's adapted, right? Honora or The Brutalist will probably win. Who I think should win. Of the ones you listed, I actually thought A Real Pain was the best written. I really like Jesse Eisenberg. I mean, I like him in general, but I thought he did a really good job, more writing than directing, in my opinion, on A Real Pain. So, I think that's mostly a screenplay movie. So I wouldn't be upset if that one. So I think it should. For wild card though, original screenplay. Oh, Horizon. I'll pull a Millennial Mike and say Horizon, because I don't know. I know we've only seen part one of a 4-part story, but I'm a sucker for ambition, and I was invested in all the character stories, and I thought it took immense talent to have lots of different threads that, at least be initiated in that way, and I found them all compelling. So I'll go with that. Adapted, I think Conclave's going to win. I think Wicked should win, to go back to Bree's point. I think it's a pretty impeccable work of adaptation, transferring musical theater from the stage to the screen and making it an actual movie. I don't think a lot of people are really focusing on that, and the fact that it takes what on stage is maybe an hour and a half tops, and turns it into 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I love the pacing in that movie. I don't understand people who, whatever, I'm not going to get into the criticism of it again, but I think it's a pretty, very well-paced movie. I think everything that was added to it was not superfluous. I think it just deepened the story. So I think it's pretty remarkable. Also, I just love Winnie Holtzman. She created My So-Called Life as well. I think she's incredibly talented, and all the nuance and depth to that story I kind of attribute to her. So I would love to see her win an Oscar for that. Wild card for adapted. Oh God. Oh wait, you know what? Original. What did I say? Wild card for original. I want to take back what. Oh, Horizon. I saw the TV Glow. I mean, I have to.
Ooh, yes,
mention
absolutely.
That. I have to mention that somewhere in this podcast. That was just one of my favorite movies of last year, hands down, and I loved it. Oh, another adapted screenplay wild card, Nosferatu, of course.
Yes.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Mike, I'll go to you next. So we're going to combine Best Original and Best Adapted Screenplay. So what do you got?
So the whole the three for will win. I can I have notions, right? What I would like to win is usually based on what I've seen, and then the long shot is usually typically what I want to win is also the long shot. So it's funny how that works, but no, I'd say Horizon is what I'd like to see win, and is also probably a long shot, the longest of shots. As far as what will win, I've also heard a lot about Brutus and Nora, and I don't know. Brady Corbet has the sauce, in my opinion. I just think that he just, Vox Lux has a very sweeping story, and it's written in such a way that it really captures kind of like the feelings that you have during a certain era, a certain period. And I get that the Brutus also has those themes in it. I haven't seen the movie, but it's kind of like it takes place over a period of time. And I know that Brady Corbet really knows that that's his wheelhouse. He really knows how to do that. So that will probably win. Those are both original, right? And then as far as adapted are concerned, it's hard to say. Dune maybe might win. I don't know what the other options are going to be, but I feel like Dune is just very heavily poised to win a lot of different things. And people really like Denis, they like Dune, and I think he kind of hits a certain kind of general audience as well as a certain kind of cinephile mentality. So I feel like that would probably be considered. As far as what I want to win, yeah, I'd say Dune is what I would like to win. And then as far as long shot goes, just so I don't say the same thing twice, I'd say Joker. Joker 2. I think the story is very well written. I think it's gonna be completely just overlooked, unfortunately, but I think they did a really good job how they executed it.
All right, Tommy, you're next.
My case for best adapted screenplay would center around Peter Strahan for Conclave. I think that's the best written movie of the year, and I think that's the one where you really do feel like you're reading a book as it's being presented to you on screen. It's absolutely spectacular the way Strahan was able to adapt the Robert Harris story into what was seen on screen. Of course, the filmmaking adaptation in of itself. But I would also say cases could be made for Dune Part 2, Inside Out 2, I'm Still Here, and The Wild Robot. What Chris Saunders was able to do in adapting the Peter Brown series of stories was absolutely remarkable, phenomenal, and what lived with someone like myself throughout the year. And let's see here, going back to original, I would say Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett and Mona Vastaloid, if I'm pronouncing that, for The Brutalist, Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain, Pale Padilla for All We Imagine Is Light. I'm just going through my list here, making sure I didn't miss anything. The case could be made for Seed of the Sacred Fig, but I want to give a hot take real quick. And Captain, this may take you off guard, but as pristinely made of a movie the substance is from a filmmaking standpoint and Demi Moore's performance, I didn't give it thumbs up because the story made the experience depressing. And when I think about the story and other previous depressing experience that have been Academy Award nominated darlings over the years, you think of movies like Born on the 4th of July or even The Whale, two completely different movies. But while they were depressing experiences at the same time, it had a moment of overcome at the end in their respective lights. The substance is not a happy ending. And do you think that, my question that I leave is, do you think that that would be considered a turnoff to voters from that story perspective because it doesn't have the whole package at the end of the day? That's my concern.
No, I don't. The Academy, I don't think. I think the general audience is more concerned about tone, mood, whether there's something is an upper or a downer. I think there's a lot of downer experiences that are very cinephile-esque, and I think the Academy would be very favorable to. But that's just my notion.
I also noticed that the Academy tends to go for concept over actual execution. So if it's an original concept that's exciting, that tends to win original screenplay more rather than, I'm trying to think, like, what won last year? Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of adapted last year. I was pissed Oppenheimer didn't win adapted screenplay last year. I thought that was phenomenal. But I forget. Oh, American Fiction. One.
Oh yeah, no, he was.
Well, American Fiction was super good. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not a fan, but
one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
oh, his speech was incredible.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, I went to a
Jeffrey Wright.
no
Cord Jefferson.
Cord Jefferson, yeah. I went to an advanced screening with a Q&A. Met Cord afterwards at the reception, and he's one of the nicest people. And like the beauty behind that adaptation was, I asked him, because when you look at a movie like American Fiction, like for someone like myself, you think of movies with a similar story construction, such as Tootsie and Not Okay, for example. When asking about that from that construction, and he gave the exact response that you would hope for, and he said he hadn't seen either one. When I asked him about that, and he said, as a fan of the art himself, he said he was looking forward to seeing Not Okay. But like in his speech where he said like how many movies one can make with the budget of one big budget movie, and so on and so forth, just so it showcases the power behind it.
I remember that being one of my favorite speeches from last year. Although, Josh, I do agree with you. If it were up to me, Oppenheimer would have won Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah, my point was just I don't think the Academy usually goes for. I mean, they don't look at much as the form of the writing as they wish they did. It's kind of, I think they just get excited by the concept.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but like from that, even in a story like Silence of the Lambs, like when you saw at the end Dr. Lecter walking away, like he escaped and he got away, but it was still like somewhat of happiness from that standpoint. Like this was a depressing experience, and there wasn't a happy ending.
I personally don't think that movies are depressing. You know what I say? Like I think it's
no, of course not. But like from that story construction standpoint of like not redemption, but like something that it's just a straightforward depressing story. Like has there been like a story of not of a similar nature, but like,
well, there's like 3 movies this year that are about aging. Like I would say like Baby Girl, The Substance, and The Last Showgirl. I mean, those are all movies that are tackling similar topics. So I think that honestly positions The Substance to win Best Original Screenplay more than I originally thought, perhaps. Because I think it's very like, it's a hot button issue right now. And it's the movie that I think has connected the most with the audience. And is concept driven, it's quoted, remember you are one, and it has like, people are dressing up as stuff from, I don't know. I just think that all really contributes to how voters decide. More than the depressing ending angle. I don't think they really care about that at all, personally.
Not only that, but whether or not you like the ending, I don't know a single person who has forgotten that ending because it's so. Hey,
remind me what the ending is again?
I didn't watch it.
Spoiler alert.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's the you're talking about the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right?
Yeah.
The moment.
Like with that being said, that's why I think The Substance should win, but I will also not complain if A Real Pain gets in for Best Original Screenplay because that is just one of my favorite movies of last year. And part of the reason why is because Jesse Eisenberg wrote a very like emotionally raw story about these two cousins. And we'll get to the performances later, but like that's just also another reason why that movie was so affecting. Also because, and everyone knows this by now, last year I lost both of my grandmas. So I was just this movie came out just at the right time for me, and that's why I fell as hard as I did for it. As for a complete wild card for Best Original Screenplay, you know what? I'll give a shout out to Saturday Night, which has not been performing well in the awards conversation, but I think what Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan did for that screenplay, just taking the literal 90 minutes before the first ever broadcast of Saturday Night Live and just kind of running with that. It's not the most substantial movie of the year. I just thought what they did with that material was just very highly entertaining, and I think deserves a little bit more credit than it's getting.
Time out real quick on the case of originality. Going back to what I was saying earlier about relatability, talking about the substance and that being a depressing experience. Talking about Jesse Eisenberg and his writing, and that's a campaign and a story in and of itself. But on the case of originality and long shots, what I would give if for Megan Park to get all the accolades in the world for her originality and everything she brought to the screenplay of My Old Ass. How am I the only one that has brought that up so far in this category?
No, I'm actually very glad you brought that up. And given recent events with the passing of Aubrey Plaza's husband,
yeah.
Like I'm almost afraid to rewatch that movie because when we get to a certain reveal towards the end, I'm afraid that scene is going to just destroy me.
I mean, that scene in of itself. I mean, I saw that. I saw that moment. And I thought of my parents. So it's just. I mean, it's a whole thing about growth. I mean, that alone, growth. The song "Friend" from 311 that came out this fall. It's those little tidbits that's the staying power behind it. Those are the things that speak to us and that live with us forever.
As for best adapted screenplay, I think this is going to Conclave. It's pretty. I don't know if it's like a lock to win, but I'm not sure what else is other than Wicked, which I know for a fact is getting nominated. I'm not sure what else has like that much momentum. According to Gold Derby, others in contention are Amelia Perez, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, which Josh, I'm surprised you didn't bring up.
I was going to in director.
Fair enough. And then obviously Dune Part 2, I'm Still Here, The Room Next Door, and I haven't had a chance to see this yet, but I'm surprised at how little attention The Piano Lesson has been getting.
I still need to see that. I keep meaning
Same.
to. It's on Netflix,
Yeah.
right?
I am going to see it soon, especially if Danielle Deadwire manages to get into the acting race. But yeah, I'm surprised that an August Wilson adaptation isn't being isn't a bigger presence.
It's a Netflix thing.
Well, it's also it's really I saw that on stage. I saw that on Broadway with the cast who's in the movie. Most of them. Danielle Deadweiler wasn't in the role. Danielle Brooks played her role on stage, but Ray Fisher, Samuel Jackson, John David Washington. I was really lucky to see that. But the content of the story is very dark and pretty depressing. So I think it's probably the fact that Malcolm Washington directed it and it's his directorial debut. So I think it's not really on people's radar for those two main reasons, probably.
And also probably because Netflix is really pushing Amelia Perez and everything else is kind of falling by the wayside.
Yeah, they're pushing the wrong movie, probably. Whatever.
We'll get to that when we get to.
It's working for them, so
it is, for better, for worse. Kiona, your thoughts on best original and adapted screenplay?
Sure.
Again, for the sake of brevity, I'll just be real quick about it. I'm going to say for original screenplay, it's probably going to be The Brutalist or maybe a Nora. The Substance I would put forth as being one that should be nominated. Let's see. Or that would be like my left field choice, I guess you could say. For best adapted, I'm going to agree with most of you and just say that Conclave is probably going to win that. Wicked and Dune Part 2 obviously should be in the conversation. And I think that The Wild Robot also might be one that's kind of a left field choice there.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So that's it.
I feel like until a lot of the regional critics groups started announcing their awards, I feel like The Wild Robot was definitely on the bubble in terms of adapted screenplay. It would be awesome if it got in, but its chances are dropping as each day passes. Bree, what about you?
So for adapted screenplay, I think it's going to be Conclave, but if we want to manifest evil into this world, Amelia Perez.
Oh no.
No, but what everyone else said about Wicked and Dune, I wholeheartedly agree with. I definitely think they'll probably more than likely round out the top 5. I don't know. Wicked still could go either way, even though Josh said earlier. I mean, you could make like a legitimate argument in terms of like best original screenplay. I think the one that will and should be The Substance. Like, again, it probably will be something like Anora, but it just, with best original screenplay, at least I feel like with Gold Derby, it can sometimes go like either way. To me, that's a harder category to lock up than say like, the main, best actor categories. But the other one for like, Buck Wild choice would be A Different Man.
Ooh, I still like to see that, but as far as like original,
the reason I'm saying that is because with the awards, like I think it slowly might be like a dark horse, and I think people are writing it off too early.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so now we are on best supporting actor. So far, just based on all of the regional critic groups and the Golden Globes, as little as they matter, Kieran Culkin seems like he's just, well past like the rest of the competition, but kind of gaining some momentum, at least after the SAG nominations. We've got Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Yura Borisov from Anora, Ed Norton for A Complete Unknown, and slowly dropping like a stone is Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2. So, Mike, any thoughts on best supporting actor?
Not necessarily. So again, a lot of those I haven't seen, but I do think Adam Driver in Megalopolis is really good. It's not going to get any attention because the movie it's in, but
that would be lead actor.
Oh, is this actress?
No,
this is supporting actor.
Oh, supporting. Oh, okay. Well, even less. No, I don't have any thoughts about that, to be honest. I'll defer.
All right, Keona, what about you?
Obviously, I think Kieran Culkin's probably the front runner for this. Guy Pearce is always solid in everything that he does. Denzel, I think, did a really good job in Gladiator 2. I don't think that, maybe it's not going to be here's the year for this particular award. But anyway, I think he did a good job. Also, Stanley Tucci in Conclave. Very good. Yep.
Josh, what about you?
Echoing Kieran Culkin is like walking away with this. He's going to sweep. That's pretty much already a given. But should win. I like Igor. I'll go. That's my one Anora vote. I thought he was, he's kind of the most memorable part of the movie for me, at least, and what I've ruminated on the most. A wild card. I like Ed Skrein in Rebel Moon. He was such a good villain, and I think he's an amazing actor who never gets credit for just how menacing he can be. I would love to see him play like a hero in a movie at one point and be the lead of a movie in that regard, or even in like a rom-com. But I think he's found a really good niche, and he was like my favorite villain of the year. So I would say never gonna happen.
He was in that Pearl Harbor movie. I forgot the name of it, but do you guys know what I'm talking about? That screen?
No, I think I only know him from Deadpool and Alita Battle Angel before this. So I'll have to look that up, whatever it is. That screen, Pearl Harbor. You said Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Pearl Harbor movie, as much as that narrows it down.
Are you not the Michael Bay one?
No, Midway.
Midway.
Okay. Yeah. He played, protagonist in that movie.
Gotcha. I haven't thought about that movie in ages.
It was strong. No one watched it. I think, did it come out 2020?
No, it came out a little bit before that.
Yeah. So yeah, but it was pretty strong.
That's a Roland Emmerich movie, I believe.
It is. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Who's next? Tommy, go ahead.
All right. So the leaders to be nominated, no question about it, are Yura Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. He's leading the race. It's easy to say it's his award to lose, but he's not a lock. Furthest thing from it. Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice, but the race to be nominated now. I mean, the easiest ones to look at are Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2, and Jonathan Bailey for Wicked, and throw in Stanley Tucci for Conclave. So any one of those latter names could find themselves nominated. I mean, it's the race to be nominated, but at that point, the nomination itself would be the win. Who has the better advantage is the real question.
Yeah, this one gets a little bit tougher if it's not just going to be Kieran Culkin. As far as a wild card, there are two from Nosferatu who I think deserve a spot: Willem Dafoe and Bill Skarsgård for playing Count Orlok.
Would that be lead though? I don't.
That's a good point.
No,
it's a titular role.
Right, but Gold Derby has him as like supporting.
Oh, do they? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, they are. Which, by the way, just to go on a slight Bill Skarsgård tangent, like he's like low key becoming like the creature actor of our generation, and I don't think that conversation gets brought up enough.
He is
Jones.
Yeah, he's picking up exactly where Doug Jones left off.
He's phenomenal in Nosferatu. Like, I still can't believe that's him.
I get all the Skarsgårds mixed up. I watched Boy Kills. Oh, it was last year. Boy Kills World.
That's Bill.
Yeah, and he's great in that. He's good.
He's the best. I think he's the most talented of that whole family, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, yeah, like as time goes on, I kind of am leaning towards that too.
Like it's nothing against Alex. I just think Bill takes more creative risks, and like for like the first half of Barbarian, that role convinced me that he should be in a rom-com.
He was in Assassination Nation, and he was in a lot of stuff that I forgot that he was in.
John Wick Chapter 4, he's the villain in that. He's really good in that too. In fact,
The Devil All the Time. That was actually a good argument for Tom Holland being a real actor.
That's, and I'm surprised you didn't say for your wildcard selection. I'm surprised you didn't say Dennis Quaid.
That's actually not a bad wild card. Anyone else have anything to throw out before we move on to supporting actress?
How many more categories do we have?
I think like 3.
Yeah, we have to do the supporting actress, the 2 actor and actresses, director, and then best picture. So,
right,
we'll do this rapid fire.
The only thing I'd say for like a wild card, because I pretty much agree with everyone else, Willem Dafoe for Nosferatu, just because it's Willem Dafoe.
He's so good in that role. Like it's like a masterpiece.
No, he understood the assignment.
Absolutely.
All right, now for supporting actress in the lead right now, it's Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Felicity Jones, who unfortunately is kind of dropping for The Brutalist.
Unfortunately.
Margaret Qualley is kind of picking up some momentum for The Substance. Daniel Deadweiler did get nominated for a SAG Award, so that's boosting her momentum. Same thing with Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. Selena Gomez is dropping. And also, unfortunately, Ingenue Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys. So, Kiona, I'm going to start with you.
Yep.
Best supporting actress. What do you got?
If Zoe Saldana wins, I'm going to be happy for her. That's all I have to say about that. And Felicity Jones, of course, I love her. I wish that we'd gotten her as Black Cat, but we never did. And Margaret Qualley, I think, was very good in The Substance. So
nice. Mike, do you have anything, or shall we defer?
This is a supporting actress, you said now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess one thing I could have pointed out was in the last one, which is, I guess, supporting actor, was Joseph Quinn in A Quiet Place Day One.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he did a really, really good job in that movie. I just wasn't prepared for it. I didn't have a list of everything, but no, yeah, I guess I defer for the actress until I figure it out in the next category.
All right, Josh, what do you got?
So who will win? Zoe Saldana, which I'm so happy she's going to get an Oscar. I just wish it were for a different movie, but I'll pretend it's for Neytiri. That's fine.
Just believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, she's been killing it in that role so far. So I want Ariana Grande to win, though. It's like kind of, I feel bad for her. I think she should win, honestly, because but I also, it's kind of incredible that that's only half her arc. And I've heard from Wicked part 2, like it's more Glinda's movie. Part 1 was Elphaba's movie. So she could always end up showing up again next year in this category, but I
That's a good
doubt it.
point.
Wild card Aubrey Plaza is Wild Platinum in Megalopolis. She is incredible and hilarious in that movie, and she deserves an Oscar nomination for it, in my opinion. But
I love that pick.
It's the correct pick.
Before the SAG nominations were announced, my wild card actually was going to be Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, because for some reason, neither her nor Elle Fanning were in the conversation much at all. It's really just been the movie for Best Picture and Timothy Chalamet for Best Actor. But I'm so happy that she did get a SAG nomination, and I hope that translates. But as far as who will win and who should win, I think it is going to be Zoe Saldana, but it really should be Ariana Grande.
This is just something just throwing out there. I don't necessarily feel confident that this is like is a should be, or it definitely it's not a will be, but this a really good supporting actress was Kaylee Spaney in Civil War.
oh,
Ooh.
that's a good one.
Yeah, she did a really, really good job. So I feel like that, should be considered.
It's not a bad pick.
Not at all.
Bree, what about you?
I'm honestly on the same page. Like, I feel like it should be Grande's, but it'll probably be Saldana. But it's kind of crazy, like, the whole trajectory of Zoe Saldana's career, like, from being, like, the character, I don't even fucking remember her name in Pirates of the Caribbean, and then just, like, her career, like, after that is honestly...
It was Anna Maria. I remember.
Anna Maria, thank you.
I'm a big Zoe Saldana fan.
But it's, like, honestly wild, because I was, like... Because I remember from, like, Pirates, I'm like, hey, isn't that it's not from Pirates, from, like, Avatar. I was like, wait, isn't that the chick from Pirates of the Caribbean? Which is, like, completely reductive, but to me, like, personally, like, that's just hilarious. But honestly, I kind of agree with you, Josh. Like, I'd happy she wins. I just wish it was for a different movie. But, it's the Oscars, and, like, you get what you get, and just go, if you have the chance to get it, go get it. But in terms of, like, who I think would be a wild card, just to piss people off, Jamie Lee Curtis in The Last Showgirl.
Oh, jeez.
That's actually I don't know if I'd call it a wild card. That's a legitimate possibility.
I don't know. I just love chaotic picks just to make people, like, upset. And the funniest thing is, like, they're just screaming into the ether because I honestly could not give less of a shit.
The thing about chaos is that it's fair.
I don't know why I lean towards the more chaotic picks, but I just feel like this is just a distinct possibility that will happen. And just kind of out of morbid curiosity, I want to see it happen.
I had a vision earlier today. What if Ariana Grande wound up being the hoop dreams of this a nomination announcement, where it being left off, like a guaranteed nomination, only to be left off? So do I believe that's going to happen at the end of the day? No, but
Stans would go to war.
Honestly, I would pay to see that, just to see the Ari stands just literally going in the pits. Like, I would pay the Ari-nators. Like, I would pay legitimate money to see that.
Did anyone? So I feel like there's a whole new kind of like group of Ariana Grande fans that don't care about her music, who probably don't even really know who she is as far as like a musician, who just like her because she's in Wicked. Like,
because she's that good in the movie.
It's true. She is.
Yeah, I guess which would be that would be a statement toward her, her abilities. But it's just kind of funny because it's like they're definitely also the fans who like her as like a musician and as a celebrity. And the same thing with Lady Gaga. It's like, honestly, I think a lot of people like and dislike Lady Gaga, or maybe even Ariana Grande, because of just their celebrity status and like whatever that comes with, But I think Lady Gaga always does a really good job in all the movies that she plays in, and I don't really have like any feelings about her music one or the other. So,
well, I think both of them, Ariana and Lady Gaga, they're both like actors first. and then
Yeah.
pop stars. And you can tell like
which is the thing that drove me nuts about like people getting pissed off that she was cast. I'm like, she's been on Broadway since she was a kid. She's known Kristen Chenoweth, and she is literally Wicked's strongest warrior. Like, I have zero doubt in my mind when she was like 12 or 13 years old, she definitely had a Wicked fanfiction.net account and definitely wrote fanfiction.
I would also make the case.
I mean, I had a fanfiction.net account. I mean,
it's what made her popular.
But also the fact that she, you know, even before she auditioned, like she had a history like with the show. Like she did stuff like with the show, like during like anniversary and like covers. So like she has like a history with it. Like there was literally very few people I would have trusted with that role more, that they would not screw it up. So that's, you know, again, when you talk about people who are like film online, I'm like, you do not know what the fuck you're talking about.
I also think this is the first time in her career she's actually like come into her own and been authentically herself. I feel like there's been like a long period. I mean, her entire career so far, she's been trying on different stuff and has been kind of
standpoint. Absolutely.
Yeah. What the industry has dictated her to be. And I think this is the first time she's fully come into her own. So I think that's notable as well.
In regard to her role, or like, what do you mean?
With like doing a role that's suited to her talents and is like authentically her, because there's been a long history of Ariana Grande. I mean, a lot of pop stars do this, but like shifting their style and how they look, how they talk, you know, it's a little sociopathic. it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Right, but she's like a bit hardcore theater kid. I mean, one of her most famous songs fucking samples like The Sound of Music. It's like, come on.
That's a great point. She was like born for this role.
Absolutely.
Has everyone said their best supporting actress picks?
Other than my hot take, let me wait. Hold on a second. Lost my notes a second. I will go ahead and say I do believe that it's going to be between Ariana and Zoe. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave is going to be good. Marquee is gaining momentum, but what I would give to see Aubrey Plaza, not in Megalopolis, but for My Old Ass,
Boo,
for best supporting role.
Ooh, I actually would really like to see that. I know it probably won't happen, but
unfortunately, but my gosh, that would be absolutely spectacular. That entire movie, I mean, it's a critic darling, but for whatever reason, just wasn't campaigned. What happened?
You'll have to take that up with Amazon and MGM.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. Challengers has good music, but not much else.
Fiona, what about you?
Fiona?
Wait, this is for what now?
Supporting actress.
Oh, I thought, didn't I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've had an episode, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be right back after a word from our sponsors. Now,
I thought you said Fiona, and then I realized you said Kiona.
Anyway,
Donkey.
Like from Shrek. Yeah, she was
gonna be
supporting
like,
actress.
yeah. That's why I was a little confused. Anyway, it's fine.
Anyway, best actor.
Best actor. Okay, let's do it.
So in the
and
lead,
to think Lord Farquaad was a psychiatrist.
In the lead right now, but is unfortunately or fortunately dropping, is Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. Then we got Ray Fiennes for Conclave, Timothy Chalamet for Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Daniel Craig for Queer, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. I don't know about that one anymore. Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain, Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, Nicholas Hoult for Juror Number 2, and Hugh Grant for Heretic. Kiona, I'll start with you. Why do you think Ray Fiennes deserves his Oscar?
Because he just does. The dude needs an Oscar. Come on, he's such a great actor, and he's never had an Oscar. This is crazy. This is time already. Give him his Oscar. Give him his flowers. Come on, guys.
Yeah, honestly, it's getting to Leonardo DiCaprio levels of ridiculous. Like, how do you not have an Oscar?
Exactly. How does this happen? Anyway, he's great in Conclave too, and he has like one of my favorite lines in all of cinema from last year, honestly, which is about certainty and how it's the deadly enemy of what does he say? The deadly enemy of unity,
something like that.
Anyway, it's a great line. But yeah, he definitely deserves it for Conclave. What do I think? It's going to go to Adrian Brody, I think. I think that's who's going to win. I think Ray Fiennes should absolutely win. And left field, I'm going to say Coleman Domingo because I like him in everything that he's in. Fantastic actor.
Yeah, Coleman is just really good. I'm a little bit disappointed that A24 kind of dropped the ball in terms of its distribution of Sing Sing. Like I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure my theater will be getting it next weekend for conveniently for Martin Luther King weekend. But yeah, I wish they did a better job handling the distribution of that. Josh, for best actor, give me your will win, should win, and you know the drill.
Will win Adrian Brody. I don't think he's dropping out or falling. I think he's gonna sweep. Should win of the ones you listed. The one that stood out to me is Nicholas Hoult for juror number 2. I don't know why. I mean, I think. I mean, he had a really, really good year. I haven't seen The Order yet, and it's on my list. I need to watch it. But
same.
I do think he's like a really fascinating actor. He's revealing himself to be one of the most talented of his generation. And I just think, yeah, should win. I mean, that's never going to happen, but it'd be cool if he was at least nominated for juror number 2. He gives a very good tortured performance in that. My wild card is like very easy. It's Josh Hartnett in Trap.
Ooh.
It was one of my favorite performances of the year. I thought he absolutely killed it. And I just love the Josh Hartnett assance that we're currently experiencing, and I loved him in that movie.
You know what?
I agree. He is so good in that.
He's really good in that.
Mike, I'll go to you next. Any thoughts on best actor?
None of these are going to be considered, but they're all interesting ones. I liked Adam Driver in Megalopolis. I liked Aaron Pierre in Rebel Ridge. That's kind of a weird one.
I love that performance so much.
Yeah, it was amazing slow performance, and I'm just a big fan of that kind of like archetype. I want to see more of that. And then, of course, I think Chalamet in Dune Part 2 is always. I think Chalamet. I don't think this is his best performance in any movie he's ever been in. I don't even necessarily think it's better than Part 1, but I don't know. I do really like Chalamet in general, so I would say that. And then Joker 2, Joaquin. That's honestly, to be honest, his performance is so incredible in that movie that I actually, now that I'm thinking about it at this moment, I feel like we all kind of just forgot like how absolutely amazing he is. And I think it actually really should be considered because it's transformative. It's amazing. It's incredible. He just gives everything. So,
all right.
That's it.
Bree, what about you?
I'm kind of with Kiona. It's probably going to be Adrian Brody. I mean, at this point, I feel like it is his to lose, but God, it would be so cool if Ray Fiennes won. But I don't know, Chalamet could kind of come in as a dark horse and sort of like cancel the two out for Bob Dylan because the Academy just, for whatever reason, really loves Bob Dylan biopics. So I'm just saying there's a possibility that might happen. But in terms of like the random, kind of like dark horse, or I think it might be interesting, but probably isn't going to happen. Justice Smith and I Saw the TV Glow.
Love that.
I thought you were going to say Matt Walsh and Am I Racist?
Oh my God.
Well, he would definitely be a winner in that category.
Good Lord.
Dark horse.
Tommy, save us.
I'll just say with the idea of Dennis Quaid gaining momentum in the Best Supporting Actor category, don't ever discredit Republicans' place as entertainers in stature ever again. The thing about the fifth final nominee, because in Best Actress, obviously the four front runners are looking to be Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Ray Fiennes for Conclave. I say that jokingly, but Sebastian Stan's performance in The Apprentice would that be the pinpoint? I mean, obviously Jeremy Strong is looking to be nominated for his performance, but could that what statement would that make at the end of the day? I mean, even though he didn't have the accent down pat to the T, is that the right performance to take that final spot in the race to get that 5th nomination? Like, my long shot pick, if the story maintained a psychological presence through its entire duration and not go down the slash around the last 20 minutes, Hugh Grant would be maintained in the conversation as among the 5 individuals to be nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for his performance in Heretic.
It would be so awesome if Hugh Grant snuck into that 5th spot.
Yeah, because that movie was such a religious experience. It was a psychological. It should have maintained its presence through psychological horror throughout the entire duration, but then it went down the slasher route in the last 20 minutes, and it just derailed any momentum that it had. It went down a, I don't know if you would call it a Fatal Attraction like route, but it just went down a completely unnecessary route. I mean, yeah, you had to, obviously you can't just leave that type of story. I mean, you had to get out if you wanted to survive. Something had to happen. But at the same time, was that decision really necessary? Because it devalued any strong stature and campaign the storytelling had, for especially Hugh Grant's performance.
I didn't hate the ending as much as like other people did. It is one of those hard ones where it's like you have to end the movie somehow, and maybe this didn't land quite as well as they wanted it to, but I don't know how I would have done it any different. But I'll just say quickly before we move on to actress, yeah, Brody's going to win. I want Ralph Fiennes to win for Conclave, and you know what? For a wild card, there's no chance of this ever happening, but I would love it if Glenn Powell kind of snuck back up for his performance in Hitman.
Nice. Great choice.
Now, on to Best Actress. In the lead currently is Mikey Madison, though I think Demi Moore is pulling up ahead. And then we have Carla Sofia Gascon, Cynthia Erivo, Fernanda Torres, and then trailing behind, those are Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, Angelina Jolie for Maria, Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl. This would be fun if June Squibb got in for Thelma, and Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun. Brie, I'll start with you. Who do you have winning for Best Actress?
Honestly, and I can't believe I'm referring to the Golden Globes because, again, they're meaningless. But the reason I'm kind of referring back to them, because I do think they are kind of reading the tea leaves here, because I see this as such an Oscar move. My pick is Carla Sofia Gascon. I don't know why. I mean, logically, you would think probably like Demi Moore or like Cynthia Erivo, but Carla just seems like the most Academy pick. I mean, I don't know, because I haven't seen Amelia Perez like all the way through. It seems like something that the Oscars would do.
I'm not sure if I can fully get behind her winning. I know she'll be nominated. Like that's too easy. But as far as a win, when you mentioned the Golden Globes, I thought you were going to say it's going to be Demi Moore, because that speech that she gave is like incredible.
No, like I agree that it should be her, and most likely it will be. But knowing the Oscars and like this type of stuff, you know, like, because I don't want this to get like as political or like be taken out of context, but like quote unquote progressive in like the lens of like a Hollywood film. Like it just, to me, I feel like Amelia Perez might low key sweep, because that would just be the most Oscars thing to happen.
Oh, so it's progressive. So it's progressive in the performative sense.
Correct.
I don't agree, but your logic is sound.
Unfortunately.
Josh, I'll go to you next.
So who will win? Demi Moore. I think at this point, I think like the hype is too high on her for her to lose at this point. Kind of, I feel, you know, people love a narrative. I feel like she has the most compelling narrative of most likely any nominee that's in any of the categories, honestly. So I'm going to stick with her and feel pretty comfortable making that choice. Who should win? She wasn't mentioned, but my personal favorite performance of the year was Lily Rose Depp in Nosferatu.
Great choice.
Yeah, I thought she blew me away. And it was even better the second time I saw it. I think she channels so much empathy in what she does in that movie that
she was another one of definitely like understood the assignment.
Oh, for sure. I don't even, she must have prepared like crazy for that role. So she's just my favorite performance of 2024 in general. Tied with Josh Hartnett for Trap. So I think she should win. My wild card, never going to happen. I loved Robin Wright in here. She made me cry. I thought she was so good in that movie. So that's my wild card pick.
Nice. Mike, what do you got?
Not much. I've been a bad boy. I have been watching a lot of female-led movies, so I'm sorry. But see here. Yeah, I don't really have too much on here. I guess Kirsten Dunst is the only actress who led a movie that I've seen this year that isn't animated. Oh, well, I guess Lupita Nyong'o, in A Quiet Place. I watched that this year.
There you go.
She did pretty good job as well. In regards to like this kind of the notion that I get as far as like who's gonna win, I have heard a lot about Demi and the actress who plays Nora. Although
Mikey Madison.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of hype about that. So I probably assume that one of those two would win, but it's hard to say. I don't really spend as much time as I used to analyzing, I guess, the discussion around the award seasons as much as I do just, I guess, the movies themselves. But that's kind of what I picked up from my timeline, I guess.
Fair enough. Kiona, what about you?
So for me, I think, I agree with a lot of you. I think Demi Moore is going to win. I think Mikey Madison also has a shot of winning. I think maybe she should. And also Cynthia Erivo is definitely in that conversation, I think, for Best Actress. But for a wild card, I think I'm going to say something like, okay, this is absolutely not going to happen, but Anya Taylor-Joy for Furiosa.
I would love that.
She's a great actress.
She's a great actress, yeah. For no other reason than that. Yeah. And just because I want to say something that's a little bit, left field. So, as I am wont to do.
No, I get that. Tommy, what about you?
Don't believe the hype that there is a front runner. There is not. This race is wide open, and any one of these five actresses could win between Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gaston, Mikey Madison, Demi Moore, and Fernanda Torres. For any one of those names, if those are the five nominees, any one of those names could be red winner on that Oscar Sunday night, and everybody would be elated.
There's definitely a front runner, bro.
well, I'm just saying. I'm saying I know it's between. I know it's easy to see how Demi and Mike could be the front runners, but anything's possible. But I just say it's not. Don't say that she may be Demi. The best way I could describe it is Demi Moore could be leading on a cookie cutter track in the Midwest. That how quick that car slows down. That's the best way I could describe it. But for long shots, I would say, I just, from a similar perspective, Captain, I'll ask you this one question, and anybody feel free to piggyback. But from a horror category specifically, how does one compare and contrast the performances of, and again, two completely different movies, but the same genre, compare and contrast the performances of Demi Moore and Naomi Scott?
Oh man, I hate that you brought that up because, man, if the Academy didn't have such a bias against horror, which I don't even think is true, it's just that, there's so many movies that come out in a given year that, of course, the more genre fare will just kind of fall by the wayside. But man, Naomi Scott was so good in Smile 2 that if I were in charge of voting, I would easily put her in my 5.
And that's not even my long shot selection either. That's how good.
They're not against horror. They're just against anything that's not elevated horror. Yeah.
Oh, wait, so that's not even your long shot. Then who is your long shot?
That's how good of a performance it was. But my long shot was Maisie Stella for My Old Ass.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that too.
Yeah, but that's the differentiations, and not only that, but showcases how good of a performance one can give in horror. Da, 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 da.
So I actually kind of agree with Josh that, going backwards, my long shot would be Lily Rose Depp, only because compared to The Substance, Nosferatu isn't getting quite as much attention, even though it's been screening for critics like about a month before its Christmas Day release. So people both like in the press and in the industry have had enough time to see this movie and, give it all the praise it deserves. That doesn't make her performance any less good than, the 5 who will eventually be nominated, but still, I feel very passionate about what an incredible performance she gave. As far as like who I think will and frankly should win, yeah, I'm going all in on Demi Moore. And her win at the Golden Globes only emboldened my pick. So we're almost at the finish line. We now have Best Director. Currently in the 5, according to Gold Derby, we've got Brady Corbet in the lead, Sean Baker for Nora, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, Edward Berger for Conclave, Coralie Farge for The Substance, Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys, Pael Kapadia for All We Imagine Is Light, Denis for Dune Part 2. Probably the long shot now would be John M. Chu for Wicked. And surprisingly, climbing up the ranks is James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. Brie, I'll start with you. Who do you think is ultimately going to win, and who should win instead?
Honestly, I feel like this is Corbett's award to lose. Like, honestly, again, like what I was saying earlier, and I kind of agree with Tommy a little bit on this. I feel like this year there's not as clear front winners. I mean, there's like a couple of people that you could say, yeah, they are the front winner, but it's not as locked as it's been in past years. Who I would like to win would probably be Coralie Farge for The Substance. And then in terms of my long shot, never will happen, Jesse Eisenberg.
That would honestly be a really good pick, even just to get nominated. Because although I think he did a better job writing that movie than directing, not that he did a bad job. It's just not really a visually interesting story. It's more just the story itself is emotionally hooking. But yeah, I would love to see him in the race, if nothing else. Josh, what about you?
I pretty much agree. I think Brady Corbet is going to win. Good for him. Who I think should win, John M. Chu. That's who I would love to see win. I think he knocked it out of the park with Wicked. I think people are really undervaluing his contribution to that. And yeah, he would be my choice. He really blew me away this year with his directorial skill. Long shot, never gonna happen. I gotta go with my boy Zack Snyder. Mostly because like Rebel Moon is 6.5 hours and he shot all of it himself. I should have mentioned him with cinematography as like a wild card as well. I think that level of skill and that accomplishment is probably the most impressive thing I saw in film this year. And a lot of people aren't really analyzing that or giving him credit for doing that. Yeah, those are my director choices.
Nice. Mike, why should Denis Villeneuve win for Best Director?
Actually, the funny you mentioned that. I don't know if I really want Denis to win for Dune 2. It's not that like I don't think that he did a good job. It's just I don't want him to get an award for Dune 2. It just doesn't feel right to me. For a few reasons. I think he's done better things, right? Although I think he's elevating this franchise and he's getting a lot of accolades for it, and his movies are very successful. I think that's all he really needs. I don't think these movies really need to get any more accolades than that, in my opinion. And I think he's also completely satisfied with that. He's an incredibly humble guy. I love Denis. But who should get it instead? I'm not honestly. I guess it's kind of a mixture. The long shot and what I want is almost always the same. Kevin Costner is who I think is a long shot and who I think should win. I think that it was just extremely ambitious. He paid for it himself. It's extremely different than anything we've seen in a while. I think that it really kind of revitalizes this kind of Western. With this budget, with this scope, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this since before I started really watching films seriously. So if there has been anything, I'm just not aware of it because I just don't have that knowledge. But I would like to see Kevin Costner, which is a long shot, and I would like to win. As far as who will win, I think Brady. I just think that he kind of has the sauce amongst the cinephiles, the critics, the industry, I think. And I think it's deserved. I saw the trailer for The Brutalist. I was like, just that alone, I'm like, I cannot wait to dig into that. That is amazing. And I know what he can do. So even then, I still think Costner should win, but I understand why he's probably going to win. Brady.
Yeah, I am looking forward to eventually seeing The Brutalist. Kiona, I'll go to you next.
Okay, so for me, off the list, I think it's going to be Brady Corbet. Yeah, I believe that that's going to be him. I feel like Edward Berger should win for Conclave, and for the wild card choice, I'm going to say Coralie Farge, I think, for The Substance.
Yeah,
or Denis Villeneuve. I wouldn't mind if you want.
Director is a tough one. My should win is 100% Coralie Farja because she just did such an incredible job directing The Substance. I even really like her first film, Revenge. Like, anyone who still has not seen that movie, go check it out. It's an awesome action revenge thriller. But as far as who will win, it is probably going to be Brady Corbet, just based on all of the accolades he's been getting so far. As far as a complete wild card, Robert Eggers for Nosferatu. Again, if the Academy was more favorable towards horror, then he would 100% be in the mix for the top 5. But as it stands now, yeah, that's pretty much as long of a long shot as possible. Tommy, what about you?
I would say, once again, reiterate that this race is wide open. And, talking about Robert Eggers, anything's possible. He could even be nominated. Do I think he will? No, but anything is possible. I would say that if I envisioned 5 nominees, I'd be looking at Sean Baker for Anora, Edward Berger for Conclave, John M. Chu for Wicked, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, and Coralie Farge for The Substance. Again, going back to my old ass, I really wish Megan Park got more love, not only for her direction, but for her original screenplay as well. That's those are the quick thoughts. But heck, Denny could still get in, but that's that.
I want to throw it back to Josh for a second because do you have a case for why Ramel Ross can and maybe should be nominated for Nickel Boys?
Yeah, I'm the only one here who's seen the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, it's the fact that no one's really seen the movie. I keep forgetting that it's not really in the conversation because no one is able to access it. But I think he is incredibly talented. I think he made a movie that I personally had never seen before. If you've seen the trailer for it, it's all done through the perspective of POV shots. So there's 2 main characters, and you're always seeing things through their eyes. And occasionally in the movie, this is not really a spoiler, but sometimes it happens a few times in the movie. You'll see the same scene from each of the main characters' perspective. So it'll repeat from a different POV shot. But it's really incredible filmmaking. And it's not just all POV. He inserts time-lapse photography, documentary footage. And it's a really emotional and powerful story. It's based off a novel by Colson Whitehead, who also wrote Underground Railroad. And it's kind of excavating a lot of dark American history that I never knew about before I saw the movie. So it's emotional, it's like life affirming, it's beautiful, it's avant-garde, it's experimental. So I think even for all those reasons alone, he deserves to.
You have my attention.
No, I think you would really like it. It's kind of I would call Ramel Ross. He's like a descendant or he's evolving what Terrence Malick does in his movies.
Okay, you have my attention even more.
It's very much like a visual poem. That's how I would describe it. But yeah, it's a really good movie, and I hope everyone gets to see it as soon as possible.
Same.
It's going on Prime Video, but I don't think it's been announced yet. I don't even know. I doubt it's going to come to major theaters. Like I don't know. Tommy, you work at a theater. Have you like seen anything on your schedule upcoming for the movie?
For Nickel Boys?
Yeah.
I have to double check the release calendar because we've only got 6 screens at our location, but
okay.
It's but it all depends on demand. So if the demand does get heavy, then it would be put in our lineup. So I have to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe I saw somewhere online, don't quote me, that it's coming on Prime by the end of this month. So that's before the Oscars. It just sucks because, there's no conversation or discourse. I mean, that's probably a good thing, but it's not really in the pop cultural zeitgeist or consciousness right now, and it deserves to be. So I wanted to at least get a Best Picture nomination. It definitely deserves a Best Director nomination. Ingenue Ellis deserves Best Supporting Actress, like all this stuff. But I sadly, for whatever reason, the movie is not available.
I will do my research and find out when it will become more widely available. But since you brought it up, it's time for the big one, Best Picture. So according to Gold Derby, right now, their ranking of 1 to 10 looks like The Brutalist in the lead, followed by Anora, followed by Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Complete Unknown, The Substance, A Real Pain, and Sing Sing. So, Brie, I will start with you.
Again, I've been a bad girl and just life has been happening. I have not seen as many movies this year as I would have liked. That being said, I think everything for how everything is kind of panning out right now, I think it is the Brutalist Award to lose. I do think whoever ends up in the top 4 Best Picture will be interesting because I feel like there's not really any movies like here that I feel like, oh God, like why are you here? Like even the ones that I don't, like as much on principle, I would be like, yeah, I get it. That's legit. I kind of wish based on the rankings, it seems like The Substance is kind of in there a little bit. I mean, it's still like a far, like really like big stretch. I mean, I've sang my praises about Wicked, but at the end of the day, you have to just kind of look at like the odds and the logic of what's there. And I don't think anything is just going to catch The Brutalist. It's not like Barbenheimer last year where you could make the argument for like either one, like legitimately in like different ways. I think this is, at least in the case of this year, a little bit more clear cut.
I'm not quite sure if I agree that The Brutalist is like the front runner. At least not yet. I want to see what some of the other major awards groups are heading in, because it hasn't been picking up too many of like the regional critics' choice picks for best winner. That has been Anora, but one thing that a lot of pundits seem to misunderstand is that the Academy is not the same thing as like the critics. Like,
oh yeah, of course, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's why what often ends up winning Best Picture is, how should I say this? Like a movie that is, I guess, more emblematic of the year that was, for better, for worse. Now, with that being said, Tommy, what are your thoughts on Best Picture?
Question though, before I give my before I get my thoughts. Can a case be made for All We Imagine as Light be nominated for Best Picture?
I don't see why not, especially, to make up for the fact that India did not submit it for Best International Film.
What a story that would be. I'll say, going back to The Brutalist, it showed the power behind movies like The Brutalist and The Substance give that inspiring notion to, quote unquote, go for broke in that sense and release movies of that format and of that magnitude. And when you look at stories of the sort, when you look at movies like Anora, like Conclave, that have the momentum going for it, and when you see other releases such as those that continue to live with us, Nosferatu, that marketing campaign as a whole, it's a talkie compared to the silent film from 102 years ago. But the marketing is so genius, thinking back to the original trailer that was attached to the bike riders. And that simple teaser and the poster, I kept talking about how cool the poster was. And when I was finally able to put it up outside Sinopolis, and everyone was saying, I was saying how the shades of the marketing vibes and the shades of Jurassic Park were on point. And I put it up and everyone was like, you put it up, and I'm like, yep, go take a look. And they all took a peek outside of the glass because it was cold outside. So everyone stayed inside, and they were just like, what? The only thing missing in the lobby was a rented casket, and it would have been perfect. But nonetheless, like those little things, the marketing strategy should be studied by individuals in film business. But what I would give for The Wild Robot to be nominated for Best Picture, that's a movie that lived with me forever. And thinking back to the promotional material, seeing that was attached to Kung Fu Panda 4, that first teaser with that rendition of What a Wonderful World, transitioning to sitting in that IMAX theater, seeing the movie itself, and those moments that reminded me of my relationship with my mom. And thankfully, Mom and I are, not only is she still here from the story that I mentioned earlier, talking about If, but we're talking. She's fantastic. She's Mama Hughes. And she was there for me the same way Roz was to Bright Bill. And that connection of not only mother-son, but parent-offspring is the selling point that DreamWorks could make to Academy voters. The campaign is there. And it's a fascinating story. One can build a campaign, power forward, and present it to voters. The question, though, why aren't they going as all in as they could?
So The Wild Robot is my number one movie of the year. It has been ever since I saw it back in September. And yet, since it missed both the National Board Review and AFI's top 10, I have honestly given up on any chances it has of breaking into the Best Picture race. Even though, yes, now it does qualify as a long shot. But man, this and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio were like the closest shots for an animated movie to break into Best Picture since Toy Story 3 did it back in 2010. And
I legit forgot that happened. That was the year after Up was nominated, right?
Yep.
But
my point that I'm going with this sort of defeatist attitude is I'm not sure what it's going to take for an animated feature to break into Best Picture. And no, I don't want it to be another Disney movie because I don't need to hear that discourse again.
You want to hear the depressing take that I think it will be to win Best Picture? And I feel like you're knowing where I'm going with this.
I feel like I know where you're going with this.
An animated film about the Holocaust.
Oh, gee.
Well, basically, what would you say? Like a Western Grave with the Fireflies.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I would rather it. I mean, look, just for the context, both me and Mike are Jewish, but I'm like, I feel like that one picture, fucking Ben smoking that cigarette. I'm like, I know it's going to happen at some point. There's like no way it's not.
Why, Brie, did you just give me a vision of a Disney animation adaptation of the Boy in Striped Pajamas?
Oh no.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean. I just manifest evil into this world, and I need to be stopped.
I saw this. It was like banned Disney Pixar movie, something like that, and that was one.
I know the one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
there was a whole bunch of like really like just really
I mean, I think
questionable stuff.
Like I think on principle it could be a cool idea, but I'm like, here's the bait. Let's just reel her in.
Yeah. This is the thing, right? I think the reason why the Academy doesn't take animation seriously and the reason why the general audience doesn't take things seriously or animation seriously is the same. I think it's a larger cultural issue that affects basically everyone at this side of the, the hemisphere is what we call it. Yeah. So I think that, I don't know, like, what one movie is going to change that? I took an even more defeatist attitude than even Mike does. It's like, you're not going to just like change the subject about, like add this subject to an animated movie and then, now it's going to make it worthwhile. Like you're going to
I get what you're saying. And the reason why there actually is like a phrase for this stigma that general audiences have with animation. It's called the animation age ghetto, where at least in the West, and this is probably because of the rise of television, where animation has been like predominantly like referred to as like children or family entertainment. And there are filmmakers out there who have tried to push the boundaries and tell.
Tarkovsky is among them, probably.
Among them, sure. There have been filmmakers who have been trying to push the boundaries and tell more stories for adults, but it's a very uphill battle that at some point I've just kind of accepted that in individual movies are going to be like critical darlings because critics see most of everything. But as far as like the general public goes, I'm unfortunately admitting that eventually I'm just going to have to give up the ghost and just accept that at best movies like Flow and The Wild Robot and Memoir of a Snail, they'll be beloved by critics. The Wild Robot just happens to be a movie for everyone, but
just isolated, just like, that was a great animated picture. It's not like it's not going to be like there's not a single animated film that's going to be like the paradigm shift. No.
Well, I feel like
Beauty and the Beast, 1991.
Well, I mean, that was the best shot that it had legitimately, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the boat. There's like a far more insidious reason for like why that is. And it's due to labor laws. I feel like a lot of the mythos is like animations for kids, is something that's at least here perpetuated by the studios. Because if you can perpetuate the myth that animation isn't real filmmaking, then you can undervalue the artists who make that. And it's just like this vicious cycle. Like, I feel like animation, the way that it is, when you've seen tons of cases where you can make legitimate stuff. I mean, you've had stuff like Persepolis, which is definitely like not a film for kids, getting nominated in years past. And again, it's a cultural thing, but I don't feel like in this case you can completely blame it on the audience. I feel like that's something that's perpetuated to, because I'm not sure if Mike, you're completely aware of this, but a lot of the times, like, if you write for animation, it goes through TAG. It doesn't go through the WGA. There's a few exceptions to that rule, but generally, like, the pay rate is like a lot less. So, and animation makes a lot of money, but if you keep undervaluing the artist and saying, "Oh, it's not real, just filmmaking," then you can perpetuate that myth of it not being a legitimate art form, even though that's complete bullshit.
Other animation industries, such as Japan's animation industries, also have their own individual problems. as well. So even in places and cultures where animation isn't seen as something that's exclusively for kids, it still has its own unique issues. Now, when we're talking about just the like I guess the Academy or whatever, that's something kind of different. But yeah, animation's always just plagued by just so many different problems. I don't know why that is, but I also feel like there's so much creativity that animation offers that, like, one day, if I'm trying to be positive about it, one day, if it does actually, something does flip, it's gonna change. It's gonna change like entertainment like forever, because animation has so much possibility there.
I sincerely hope that you're right, because I have been waiting for that change for a while. I just shouldn't really be holding my breath, but getting back,
don't do it.
getting back to the best picture conversation. Josh, how are you feeling?
Tired.
Yeah, in general or with best best picture, I think it's well, I mean, right now it's Amelia Perez or The Brutalist. For the sanity of the human race, I would go with The Brutalist, even though I actually like Amelia Perez more than The Brutalist, but okay. That's who probably will win. Who should win? Wicked or Nickel Boys. Those are like the only two of the major nominees that I feel passionate about particularly. So yeah, either one of those two would be awesome. And wild card, let me see what was in my top 10 this year. I'm going to go with I Saw the TV Glove.
Nothing would make me happier than to see that movie break into the top 10. Like, especially over Amelia Perez. If we're talking about like true authentic trans representation, this is your example. Like this more so than Amelia Perez. And I mean, no disrespect to the actress. It's just foundationally this is
right.
Just,
I mean, it's like the bare minimum. Okay, we have an actual trans person playing a trans person. I'm like, cool, that's great, that's fantastic. But everything else about it's like, question, class?
Fiona, I will throw it to you next.
Sorry, eating a piece of pizza. Okay.
What kind of pizza?
Pizza.
Pepperoni.
And
Nice.
Costco pizza, it's left over.
Oh, so
Anyway,
you're a Costco guy, huh?
Is that better than being a Transformers 1 guy to you?
It's a long way from the forum.
That's a really good question. I don't have the answer for that.
No, the reason I brought that up was just because I was trying not to bring up Inside Out 2, okay? Because, yeah. Anyway, so Best Picture, let's do this real fast. Brutalist is going to win. Conclave should win. And if I had my druthers, Flow would win.
Ooh.
I'll say broccoli does have a case to be on pizza, but yes, those are good choices.
It has to be with chicken, and it has to be a white sauce.
Exactly. I was just about to say that broccoli only works on white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's very uninteresting stuff, but Brutalist is definitely going to win. And it's so imminent that I don't really even, it's like, yeah, of course water is wet, of course, guys. I mean, unless you want to get like really like postmodern, you can start questioning even those things. But it's like, in reality, just our day-to-day lives, it's like, yeah, Brutalist is going to win. It's not really, I don't feel like one way or the other about it, But in regards to what I think should win, I don't know. I feel very attached to Horizon. I mentioned it multiple times throughout the podcast. I think Kevin Costner, writing, directing, producing, financing, like it's everything like that. It's the kind of movie that really should get the kind of accolades that the Academy has to offer. And it's been talked about so little amongst both general audiences and amongst cinephile audiences. And that's a real shame. I think that this is the movie that needs to be upheld. Megalopolis kind of fits in that as well. But for whatever reasons that I guess I haven't totally explored yet, still feel that Kevin Costner's story, to me, it just strikes a chord with me. Both his story, making it, as well as the actual film itself, I think it deserves to win. As far as like a long shot is concerned, I'll finally do the thing and say Rebel Moon. I don't know. Part 1 and 2 are guess technically part 1 and 2. So, but I think, obviously you have to watch it as one. I think it's one movie. And obviously the director's cut as well. I think that is the third example of just a aspirational, inspirational, and idealistic kind of, movie that I would want to promote. Is like, this is kind of like, this is what 2024 had to offer, is like the best picture. So that would probably be my 3.
Solid picks. So yeah, to close this out, I'm not convinced there's a front runner just yet. I know the Brutalist is kind of leading the pack right now, but I said a while back that Conclave was my pick to win, and I think I'm going to stick with that. What I think should win, I'm actually kind of torn between Conclave and The Substance. The long shot, aside from The Wild Robot, I would say Nosferatu. Yeah, overall, as we've kind of made clear, because we are recording this before the nominations are announced, nothing is set in stone. And hell, we might even come back and record another podcast closer to the date of the awards. But as far as like this first conversation, I'm quite happy with how our picks turned out here. This was overall an incredible discussion. I'm glad you were all able to join us. Before we wrap, Mike, first of all, thank you for joining us. Where can everyone find you online?
At the Exiles Net on Twitter. I'm never going to call it X, so forget about it. And that's, you can find me on the Exiles Network Discord. You can find me on the Reasons I'm Broke Discord. I also have a Substack as well. That is if you just type in Millennial Mike, it'll pull up in the search. So that's my Substack. And I kind of just write my musings on animation, movies, and other kinds of subjects like that, entertainment, pop culture, whatnot.
Nice. And Josh, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at, I always got to double check and make sure. Okay, you can find me at Twitter at Josh Harding, HARDING 77, or Instagram if you feel so inclined, JHarding77. I also am running a podcast on the movie Tenet. So if you like that movie or anything pertaining to Christopher Nolan, me and my buddy Josh and Joshua, we run the Tenet podcast, and you can find us at Time Runs Out Pod. That's the name of the podcast. So
you should have called it Joshing Around. I mean, that's just, it's just like,
well, it wasn't like it needed to be Tenet themed, so that's what we landed on. But I mean, we might rename it at some point. We're still relatively new in our journey as podcasters. But yeah, feel free to give me a follow and give my podcast a follow. And thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Always
a pleasure. Bree, where can everyone find you?
Well, if you want to see me continue to manifest evil and terrible things into this world, I'm at Crazy Lemur @BSkySocial. I am also on Instagram at Lemur's Rule 1. I think I really should memorize that. And see, this is why I'm just bad at everything. You can find some of my work around the YouTubes, trying to pick up some more work. I also write, and I'm on Discord somewhere. Like, if you know where to look, you will find me. Whether or not you want to find me, that is an entirely different question.
And Kiona, where can everyone find you?
Neoplasmic24 on Twitter, Neoplasmic81 on Instagram and Threads, and also on Blue Sky and Twitch at Neoplasmic.
And Tommy?
You can follow me on Elon's Place at T_Hughes35. You can follow me on Blue Sky at thehughes35.bsky.social. You can also follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Letterboxd, Snapchat, and Linktree at the TMoney35. Be sure to follow me on my second Instagram dedicated to cooking at Cooking with T-Money. Right now at Sinopolis, our food and beverage special for the month of January is the Adios Cocktail. Paired perfectly with screenings of Den of Thieves 2 Pantera, this specialty cocktail is made with Helix Vodka, Don Q Rum, Oscure Gin, Blue Curaçao, Lemon, Simple Syrup, and Sprite. Available at all Sinopolis locations except Pico and Vista. Apologies to Matt Donato. We ran out of time.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Marquee. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.